pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right.
You want me to hit this?
She said she already did it.
Oh, you did?
But you can push it again.
Yeah, you can try it again.
Anyway, this is a part of the meeting that if you're not on the agenda, you got something you want to talk about, you can bring it forward. We can't act on it. We can take it under advisement and talk about it at another time. So, anybody got anything? Hallelujah. All right, going into the agenda here. One Southern Indiana.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner.
Wendy.
And fellow commissioners, nice to see you again. I'm Wendy Danchesser. I'm president of One Southern Indiana, and we are here to give a report of 2 complete years, or the second of the 2 years that we've been providing economic development services for Scott County through your Economic Development Commission. So last year, Matt Hall and I came, and I think we were here about the 1st of August, and summarized the year's activities, and that's what we're here to do again, but I've got a little different team with me. Matt Hall retired on us after 32 years of economic development in the community, and I guess you can't ask much more than that from an individual. But the team that he's left behind is we've trained under him, all of us. And I'll introduce Mary Jo Wallen-Orlowski in just a second, as well as Ann Keller. And I don't want to leave out Carson Tranter. Carson is with us as an intern from Hanover College, and his experience with Scottsburg is driving through Scottsburg from I-65 to get to Hanover College and stopping at Popeyes. So that's there's a connection here if you want to come up with us this evening.
That sounds like what the governor said. He drove through Scottsburg to get to Hanover.
Well, it's the place to go. The Memorandum of Understanding in which we have been working under to provide economic development services has had a start date of August 1st, 2021, and it expires on July 31st. So thank you, Tammy, for getting us in, and we wanted to present to you not only the results of the work that we've done this past year, but also ask if you want us to continue that this relationship going forward, and we hope that you do. We would very much appreciate that, and I'll talk about that document in just a second. But I'm going to first invite Ann Keller to talk about she'll tell you her title and what her day-to-day means, and maybe a little bit about some of the project work where she's the first representative that a lot of folks know about any of the economic development sites in Scott County. Ann?
Happy to. Thank you, Ms. Wendy. Again, I'm Ann Keller. I'm the Senior Director of Business Development at One Southern Indiana, and I've been working with Wendy and at One Aside for 9 years now. And I work primarily on what we call attractions. And how I like to think of that is essentially I help connect companies and their representatives who may be in other states or other parts of the world. If they're looking at Southern Indiana for a possible location, I help them get answers to their questions. And their questions can range from educational data, questions about housing, questions about the local workforce and their skill sets, and questions about real estate, what greenfield sites and buildings might be available, and of course, many, many other questions too. So I'm happy to serve as that liaison and conduit of information. So I think over about the last year, maybe 13 months or so, I have worked in some capacity on about 8 different leads. And so these are 8 leads from other states and other countries that might be interested in Scott County. And in that time, I've worked with local officials, including Tammy Johnson and members of your team, Miss Lisa and Miss Mandy, thank you. And we're also working with Scottsburg City officials, provided information about the Smith Farm in Scottsburg, the Tokeson, what I call the former Tokeson building in Scottsburg, which has gotten a number of looks, and also from time to time the Just Industrial Park, which is of course a county property, as you know. And other things come along too, but primarily those 3 properties. So I'm happy to I've gained more knowledge about those properties, of course, that helps. And I've also worked with brokers who represent those properties and helped serve as a matchmaker to connect the brokers or the building or property owners and representatives with the folks who are looking and asking questions. So that process will continue. I've enjoyed getting to know the folks who represent the utilities too in the area, and of course our relationships with utility partners are crucial. On occasion, if a site just cannot meet, for example, the gas needs of a company, it's good to know that, right away, rather than let that process go on and on for a long time if it's just not going to be doable for the foreseeable future. So those are just a few highlights. I'm happy to answer questions, as I know Miss Wendy is too. I will say as well, over the last year or so, we have put together a list of your top employers in Scott County. I did that earlier this year. I plan to do, working with Carson here in the next couple weeks, we'll update that list again. It's always good to have good, fresh data on hand. And we do get questions sometimes about your top employers and what kinds of products do they produce. Yours is Morgan Foods, as you probably know. And then also I'm kind of working behind the scenes to try to obtain some information such as engineering studies that were submitted to the state of Indiana about 8 to 10 years ago about both the Just Industrial Park and the Smith Farm. And I'm just trying to kind of collect and get that historical data on hand just so that we have it if the company needs to know more about topographical studies and utility maps and things of that nature. So that's kind of an ongoing research project that I hope to bring to bear over the next few weeks.
I have a question about the Smith Farm. Are you talking about on South Main?
Yes, at the corner of South Main and East Lovers Lane.
Wasn't that at one time what they call it, not shovel ready, but it's
Yes.
like on the Golden West?
That's correct, and I believe the Just Industrial Park is as well.
Okay.
And that's actually kind of getting to the heart of what I said. I'm trying to track down some documents from going on a decade ago about those two industrial sites or potential industrial sites. It sort of goes to, I know a ream of information was submitted at the time that they went through that shovel-ready or site-ready process. Yes.
All right.
I have a question for you, because, I believe that Scott County is in a good location. And so you've been doing this for 9 years for us, to say?
For Scott County, a year, a couple of years, yes.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
for a couple of years. Have you been approached by companies interested in Scott County?
Yes, we have, yes.
So what's been the biggest detour for them to not settle here?
I'll let you think about that for a second. One of the real concerns in our profession is once a company, it's not a site selection process, it's a site elimination process. So you're on their list and then they shortlist it and you may or may not be on. And so the reality of the profession is we very rarely get feedback. They go silent. So these companies are very quiet. Sometimes we can go out and see that, well, there's an announcement in Ohio. I bet that was the same company that we were working with, because many times they don't tell us even who they are. And we have a company coming in tomorrow that they're only going to give us their first names. They're not even going to tell us the last names of the individuals. So a little bit about getting information is hard in general, but for Scott County.
I would say whether it's in Scott County or even down in Clark or Floyd counties, in the region, we often, it can come down to tax structure, which is really primarily a state issue. It can be tax related. It can be workforce related. The education level of your population and how many people within a certain radius, say a 30 or 40 mile radius, might have certain educational backgrounds or certificates for certain skill sets. For example, we can get throughout the course of the year, I've worked in the last year over 100 leads. Few of them, very few of them go anywhere. Most of them, you never hear from again, as Wendy alluded to a few months ago. But I would say, certainly we are often asked, how many folks within 30 miles have a certain type of welding certificate? How many folks have college degrees? How many folks or have associate degrees in something? Those are questions that come up pretty frequently that we try to respond to.
All right, so if we were wanting to improve our location, probably education is the biggest area we need to get behind and try to push it.
I would add, availability of workforce is tough everywhere right now.
Everywhere in the country.
And so if you have, and maybe something we could work on together, and we do participate with the Southern Indiana Works, the Workforce Investment Board that covers Scott County. We could work on identifying the skill sets that individuals who are seeking employment have, and then maybe help us focus the messaging. So if a company's coming in and they need a certain skill level or a certain job title that they're going to be hiring, if we can show that this population seeking a job has a certain skill set, that goes a long way. Every county's trying to figure that out right now.
And no one has the magic answer. Everyone's working at this in different ways. Everywhere.
Thank you, Ann. And I will just say for the record, Ann and I coordinated our blue dresses together. I don't know if I've presented this. This is an itemized list of all of the things that we've done for Scott County in this past year. And Tammy, I've got one for you. Can I give yours to this one? Do you need one? We're from 2 different newspapers.
Yes.
And I will make sure that we'll figure out how to get this to both.
I can get one from.
Okay, get it. Thank you, sorry. Okay, the other side of the house, so Ann talks about the work on attracting projects and bringing them to the community. We also have Mary Jo
Roland Orlowski.
I've worked with
Mary
her
Jo.
for 3 years, and I just call her
Mary
MJ.
Jo.
We don't even call her Mary Jo, we call her MJ. She does what's called our business retention and expansion. So she's working with the existing businesses that are in Scott County and throughout the counties we serve. And then she's helping them grow and expand so that they retain their positions here in Scott County. Mary Jo.
Sure. Thank you, and thank you for having us here today. Like Wendy said, I do work on retention and expansion of business. I've been with One Southern since January 20, right before the pandemic, and I have to say worked on several projects and inquiries for expansions over those years, even during that time. One of the most recent ones that we did work on is EPC off of Wilson Road that put in an expansion of, I think it was $7,300,000 within that facility. I worked with Keith Boyle out there. I don't know if you know Keith, great guy. And they went ahead and put together a proposal where they were going to increase their employment by 60 positions. They were going to do the investment. They were going to offer above county wages for the jobs at $22.50 versus 19 and change, which is the standard right now here in the area. And so worked with them from the inception of them moving. They had looked at other facilities internally, and so it was kind of an internal competitive for their own business. And so Scott County was really put together a great proposal, and the state went ahead and gave them EDGE credits, which are training dollars in the sum of basically $2,500,000 for these jobs. And they actually are looking to do, I think, another in the future expansion here if they can have the right
Are you
project.
talking about Blackheath?
Yes, absolutely. And so there are others though, MCC, Austin Tri-Hawk and whatnot. And so there have been others that have approached for retention and expansion purposes that maybe have not chosen here for reasons that were internal competitors, really. And so sometimes it's just easier to stay where you are and do what you do. And so that's what I do. And it's really, I think, an integral part of keeping the fabric of the community and that manufacturing world together. I also oversee the Metro Manufacturing Alliance, which is a division of One Southern Indiana. And you know, when you talk about business and retention, making those touches and letting the businesses know that there's that support for them so that they can continue to be in the location that they're at. It's a win-win for us, and I'm really excited to see more projects come down the pipe here. So it's really that in a nutshell.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, appreciate it.
So I should have done pass this around, I'm gonna do this again. The, when EPC Columbia announced back in September, this is the press release that was provided, and I'm gonna have the same issue, one short. Okay, sorry about that. So, now I need to make the ask. The question is, if you're interested in continuing the relationship, we are most definitely interested in continuing the relationship. I've provided, and for your legal counsel's review, I'm not an attorney and I did not sleep in a Holiday Inn Express last night, but we put this together the first year under what we call a memorandum of understanding as opposed to an actual contract. There are terms to get out of it and all of those type things. The last 2 years, we have asked for a fee of $20,000 per year to provide the services. I am going to be bold and ask for an increase this year. We've raised that amount to $22,500, so a $2,500 increase. We believe that a couple of things will give us a reason or to justify that. Number one, we've seen the activity in Scottsburg mostly coming from your existing businesses. As Mary Jo mentioned, 2 years ago, both of the announcements were existing businesses growing and expanding, and then that's what this year's project announcement was as well. We think it's an opportunity we would like to explore further. It's going to require a little more time and effort to get to know your businesses. As everybody else would attest, establish some trust and understanding of what are you here for, why are you here, and we would be willing to make that investment in time, but it's going to cost you a little bit more on front end for it.
What I would like,
Yes, sir.
not a big deal, but I'd like to know about this stuff sooner.
Okay. One of the things that we can do, well, let's think of a couple of ways to do that. Right now, the MOU requires us to come up once a year. More than happy to increase our frequency. We are a short drive up. We're going to hopefully be here anyway to move that around. Secondly, what we could easily do is when these project announcements are made, we send them to the media, but as I've talked, we don't always hit your all's deadlines, and we recognize that's a problem for us. We can make sure that we send directly to you, so you're aware of it, and we have started trying to use social media a little bit more. So if there's an announcement that we post on either Facebook or Instagram or one of those other sites that my daughter knows a lot more about than I do, then we would be able to share that and maybe tag some folks for your group, and then you all can share as much as possible.
An
as
email
well.
on my county website would throw me to death. I don't know about you
An
guys.
email on my website?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Okay.
I mean, it's a lot of communications.
County email.
Be happy to do that.
So, and
Yeah.
I would like to maybe some feedback on as far as when somebody does contact you, what's the questions they're asking and things like that. Because it's nice if you guys alert us to what direction we need to go or what we can do here to improve things.
I think Randy's right. I think we sometimes need to know what we can do to improve things a little bit. So maybe not a whole lot, maybe little things, but
What we could also do is possibly go back and look at some of the projects that have just gone silent on us and just see if we can rattle some chains. If they've already made a decision and located somewhere else, they don't lose anything by telling us what happened.
yeah. Okay.
well, that's always a curiosity of why didn't you pick us? I mean, if you don't know, then you don't know what to correct or fix or work on in the future. So,
I know you guys are working on it all the time, but we do kind of get the tail end of it. And honestly, probably most activities in the city, I think that's fair to say, so they probably have more of a
we don't-
contact than we do, but we also want to know.
What we can also do when Ann mentioned the records on the Just Industrial Park, that may tell us something. We may look
Yeah.
at that and dig in and put it in front of a couple of folks and say, if you wouldn't build here, then tell us why. Maybe maybe even the local folks can give us the snapshot, because the forest versus the trees, we are always looking at trees as opposed to the full forest.
Do you need something from us tonight?
Yeah,
Just,
she
or
wants
just letting
to
us
sign
know?
this
Do we-
contract.
Is that what you got, the contract here?
Well, I don't expect to take a check home, let's put it that way, but if there's, at least if there's an
Well, that pays
indication
for
that
the
we're gonna.
redevelopment
continue.
anyway. Yeah, we pay for that redevelopment anyway, so.
Yeah, that's allocated
Well, I
for
mean,
redevelopment.
The thing
Yeah.
about it is why we went into, I guess, in a contract or an MOU with you guys was because we kind of dissolved our economic development, I guess,
It's all
person. I mean, so we don't really have anybody out there searching for, new companies, new business. And that's why we went into agreement with you guys. And I think we've had a great working relationship, and I'd rather, continue it, so.
And I think, tell me if I'm wrong here, but I think we're looking more at a regional thing now than just a local thing. Which means some of these places that you said you eliminate may not even look here if it was just Scott County. So we get into a bigger picture where we might get something out of it, so.
We're,
That's good.
we're involved in 2 different regional groups,
Yeah.
besides the RDA, the Regional Development Authority, of which you're one of the founding members of. We participate with a group called the Greater Louisville Partnership, and they pick up about 5 counties in the southern Indiana area, as well as maybe 8 counties in Kentucky.
Mhm.
And so it gives us a population well over 1 million, and that's really a key for getting some of these site searches. They want to see, is there at least 1 million people in this metro area, so we play nicely with them. But Ann is the treasurer for what we call the South Central Indiana Economic Development Group. And that is basically the I-65 corridor from Columbus down to the state's border, and it picks up, I believe, Decatur County as well as Harrison County. So it's a number of counties that does a lot of regional activities in this MOU, as the 2 previous years does ask that you remain a member of the South Central group, so you get the benefits of that group as well.
And just a side note too, with the TIF areas, the trend right now since statute has opened up frontiers that we thought were closed because you could not form a TIF district and capture any residential value. So if somebody had a home and they built a garage, that garage assessment didn't get calculated and put into a TIF fund. Now, of course, now it's residential TIF. And just for page 23, I've been tagging 4 districts in Scott County that are coming on for 23. 1 unit has proposed development of 70 houses. Another one is developing on North Moonglow. There's actually 2 there. And that's the 3 that's I put on for Scottsburg in page 23. And then also, and of course, most development has not even occurred yet. And then Austin has taken in roughly 240 parcels into a residential TIF area.
Okay.
Some have homes on them already. They're looking, obviously, not to get a whole lot off of those, maybe a garage or an improvement or something like that, small. But there are a lot of undeveloped lots, and so when you're talking about workforce, you're talking about pressure on the schools, you're talking about a lot of factors that come in here. If this is going to be a bedroom community, a residential area, I mean, we're not seeing the trend go for these industrial expansions or new factories. We're seeing fringe housing for this metro area.
And that really helps, those type of stats, and that's a 2-way communication. We need to probably know that when we're talking to folks as well. Because even if it's an existing company looking to grow their workforce by 20%, where are those people coming from?
Yeah.
Who are they? And it doesn't do our region any good if it's just, we're just gonna steal from the neighboring companies. It doesn't help us. We really are gonna have to start thinking about how new population is grown, and that's the whole purpose of that READY grant that the state administered. New population growth, but also giving them a product that they would want to live in Scott County. And sometimes that's that's an individual choice. We all choose the house we live in, but we have more options to choose from.
Well, I'm hoping the service industries pick up, because we have things here, I mean, we're an ideal location in so many aspects. you know, we got crossroads of 56 and 31 and I-65, and it's like, wow, we don't have a lot of other options. I mean, to go buy what I call more than just average pair of shoes in Scott County, you have to travel either north or south. You have to get out of the county. So those are things that I'm hoping as we build on population, I mean, restaurant attraction, that type of thing. So I'm looking forward to, if this becomes, you know, a highly populated area compared to what we've been in the past, or at least we're starting to grow in numbers and population. I mean, because we're just a little bit over 24,000 right now.
And if some of that growth
Right at
occurs-
24,000, yeah.
Well, if that growth occurs along the interstate corridors, then you're gonna be pulling in dollars from people who don't even live in
Yes.
southern Indiana. And that's the way you start generating some interest in your economy too.
So is the thought process still for major restaurants, that the population needs to be at a certain level? I mean, I always heard it had to be 50,000 population for you to get a major restaurant.
Every restaurant's gonna come up with a different number for that. What we get answers or questions asked mostly is traffic count. How many cars are going by per day? And I think that's why that frontage road where Big Boy and Cracker Barrel is located, they get to count that as traffic count. And you know, drive by and go, oh, Cracker Barrel, I know where I'm gonna stop next time for breakfast. That tends to be important to some of them as well as population numbers. Clarksville's a great example. There aren't that many residents of Clarksville, but look at all that they have along
Location.
Gutters. It's because they've got the traffic count.
And besides real estate agents, our office is the first contact most of the time that somebody makes with a government entity. So, because it doesn't matter if you're in the city or you're the county or what, you come to our office to file your homestead. So we kind of know who's taken up residency here in this county. And we get to be the welcoming committee, so to speak, and welcome your county government services to these people. And a lot of people are relocating from the Louisville metro area because they found out that the drive is not any worse. The drive is not any worse.
Right.
And they're in a more rural, lower crime area. And so we are seeing the influx of people from down south.
That's fabulous.
Well, I think the main thing is we would like some more feedback from you guys so we can learn how to sell in Scott County. So,
Why don't I make this proposal? So today, this is July, right? Why don't we increase our communications to you to a quarterly basis? And you may not get all of us, but you may get Mary Jo come in. Let me tell you what I've learned about business, some of the existing businesses. Or Ann says, why not a broker looking at this building? That would give us an opportunity to, as opposed to just the once a year getting to know each other again, give us an opportunity to maybe have some conversation, give you the feedback you're looking for, and then maybe to stay in touch with the things that Tammy's talking about so we know how to sell you best.
I mean, that's fine, but I think quarterly, if you just send an email saying, hey, here's an update for this quarter, I mean, I don't know, unless we request you to be here, I think, you know, I mean, it might be that, hey, we saw something you sent us and we want to inquire about it, and we ask you to attend a meeting, but, I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with you just send the quarterly update.
Be happy to do that.
But, and then come
I'd
out.
rather see you.
Do that too.
Well, and here's why. You know, you come in here and you tell us and talk to us, and there's three of us here, so we have a question. And sometimes I might ask a question and John or Mike might feed off that. Yeah, hey, what about this? And come up with a different question that I didn't think of. And also, it's good for our public who is at home watching these videos. They can learn too and see, you know, what's going on. At the same time, you know, like that email, they don't want to share email out on Facebook with all these people.
Right.
But they can watch here and learn also at home. So that's why I would rather.
And
So what we'll do, I'm sorry.
I'm good either way. I do know, and you alluded to it earlier, a lot of these businesses don't want information out too much. So I don't want to do something that would hurt.
So we, if there's any concern about confidentiality, then we will assign the business a project name. And I think one was Project Hawkeye or Project,
That's very common.
Project Bravado, and it just, sometimes there's a reason for the name, sometimes it's just because they look up on the wall and see something and that's what they name it.
Did you say cockeye?
Hawkeye.
Hawkeye.
Project Hawkeye was in your report, that's what.
Who's cockeye?
But we,
Then you said look up on the wall, I'm like, where were you looking at?
Project Hawkeye.
There you go.
And then that way, that allows us to talk about them in generic terms. So if, sometimes, my favorite was a project that was looking at a site in Clark County. They would not let us give their name. They were adamant about that. But they let us tell everybody that they were the world's largest German-based speaker manufacturer for vehicle speakers and standalone speakers. It was Bose, if you're familiar with that. It's like, you're not gonna let us say your name, but you're gonna let us describe you this way. Okay, we'll play that game.
Well, I know the one business you and I were talking about earlier, they don't want, they're kind of being real secret about it, but you had had a guy send me a picture of their drawing, what they're gonna put there. So, yeah.
There's a lot of companies like that. I mean, my wife's a realtor and she has people contact her and they want to be anonymous, so.
Yeah,
Well, if it's okay with you, if we've got something big to talk about, we'll put ourselves on the agenda. If not, we'll come up and just talk during the public comment period.
sounds good to me.
And then that way it'll be more conversational as you wish. We won't be asking you for any action on those items.
Zach, have you looked at this MOU?
Yes,
Fine with it?
I'm fine with it. One of the questions I did have is, you mentioned that you had dissolved something. Was it just dissolving a
We did.
particular position, or?
We didn't dissolve the corporation because we can't,
Corporation still exists.
but we dissolved the position, I
That's what
guess.
this Scott County Economic Development Commission.
Yeah, there is no one
Essentially
on,
assigned responsibilities.
I think there's a board in there, just not,
that's not even a board anymore.
because I know Scottsburg appointed the one board to it.
We have
But
a
it's your right,
Central
we're not doing
Economic
that.
Development Corporation, that our commission was separate from that, essentially should have been. And so this corporation did economic development outreach for the city of Scottsburg and the county. Austin was not part of this group. And upon the retirement of the director of that corporation, they never filled the position, and then subsequently they dissolved the employment of anybody in that corporation. It still exists, it's still a not-for-profit status. We have Blue and Company that takes care of our financials on that, and the reporting and the tax filing, but we contract now, instead of with the EDC we used to contract with for our economic development, we've substituted them with 1-7. That makes sense. Yeah.
All right,
You explained it to me before, so that does make perfect sense to me.
I'll entertain a motion to, I guess, renew the MOU with One Southern Indiana, so.
I'll make that
And
motion.
actually, let me add on that, with an increase of, did you say 2250?
Yes, that's fine.
$22,500, and it's an increase of $2,500 from what they were paid last year, so.
I'll make a motion.
Y'all makes a motion to renew the MOU, Randy?
I second that.
Randy seconds that, and I'll make that unanimous, so you need one signed, or?
When will we have a meeting?
I have an original here that I printed off in color.
When will redevelopment meet again on this?
We've already appropriated money
The
for
22.
professional services, so we can pay the bill.
The
when they-
increase, we don't have to vote on that.
There's enough in professional services to do that. We have enough in the contract line, I do believe.
Sounds good to me.
If we don't,
You ever
we'll
been
call
told
a
that before?
meeting.
Yeah, all the time,
We
yeah.
got it covered, we got you
Don't
covered.
get an opportunity, could you just put together?
What if they'd asked for 50,000?
I guess.
We might have had to look.
Information to the MOU, in section D, that talks about the tracking and reporting, and get a quarterly rather than annual, and that seems like the agreement. It says you can alter as needed, so.
Okay.
I thought I had it.
And I think the motion is really just for you to sign it, isn't it, Mike?
Yeah.
I think it's a one.
Please find a copy. Please find an original copy.
Wendy, or did you want me to print out? Did you?
I'm sorry, I've got one right here.
Okay, awesome.
If you want to take a
Thank
look at it, make sure it's the same one.
Oh, I'm
I
sure
think
it
I
is.
talked
Looks like
myself into
Got
it.
pretty
You had
colors
one,
to it.
and I-
Yeah.
And then I'll sign as well, and then Tammy, I'll leave the original with you.
And this is confidential, I see, is that correct?
We just scrubbed it, there's really nothing on there that
Tammy needs
is,
to sign that.
is of concern, that's why we went ahead and said that the media.
They maintain the confidentiality of this until there's a time or necessity for public action. I think that they're providing some information to you guys just to show what they did the last year. I think they've moved past the confidentiality points at this part, obviously, we're in public.
We're at the end of the process.
So I can go show that to everybody now. Good deal.
Well, it's always nice to know if somebody is looking,
Yeah.
and you always wonder, oh, there's a vacant piece of property, I wonder if anybody's ever looking. Well, you guys tell us if they are or they're not.
Or if that thing, if somebody walks up to you and, hey, Mike, when are they gonna start building this?
That's a bad thing.
Yeah. What are you talking about?
We promise we will not let that happen to you if it's a project we'll manage.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much, I'll make that.
Thank you, Mary Jo, whatever your last name is.
Yeah, then my phone goes off. It was actually someone from the state. That's
Yeah.
how I'm still working it. It's just like you.
There you
Thank
go.
you.
You just send
Thank you.
updated to Tammy, I'm sure they can do it at a different meeting. Copies back if that's okay.
Perfect, or we can do it when we come back in.
You can do that one. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Carson.
You don't look old enough to be in college, though. All right, moving along to the second reading of the four-way stop intersection of Slab and Cutshaw. So Randy, I know this is a project of yours, so.
Yeah, so last night, the last meeting, we had a couple people show up and they're not for it. So last night, I just wanted to see for myself. So in the hours of 6 o'clock in the evening, to 8:30 last night, because I didn't want to bother anybody past 8:30 at their house. I just walked out through the neighborhood. I didn't get a single no. And I've got 74 signatures on here that you're welcome to read. So in 2.5 hours, 74 people said they want the stop sign. And these are people that live on, to just the west of Slab on Cutshaw. I'm quite sure if I had more time, I could get more signatures. I believe, I understand looking at line of sight and stuff like that can help, but, line of sight on somebody else's property is not something that you can safeguard or maintain permanently. There's always going to be something that can be changed with that. Putting a police officer out there to write tickets for speed always hinges on, do we have the staff? What times is he going to be there? Budget issues on whether or not they got people who can be there to do that. And also, and I'm not talking about Jerry specifically or nothing, I'm just talking about sheriffs in general. Is it an election year? So how many tickets are we going to write?
We're gonna write to everybody that deserves it.
I'm not, that's what I mean, I'm not talking about you, Jerry, I'm just talking about, in the past, in general, when the sheriff is running for office.
Wait a minute.
It's
You're getting awful general here.
it's not a good choice to go around writing tickets to everybody, that's all I mean, not you at all.
And I can tell you that in my administration, if somebody does something wrong, they get a ticket, no matter what time of year it is, or where it is, where it's at.
But again, I was being very specific, it's not about you, it's just, I'm trying to move forward through the years of what we have done.
You, John.
It's me.
And So,
Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
but all those things are not a set in stone way of taking care of this problem. The main way to take care of this problem is to put a stop sign there. Now, there is always going to be the concern as to whether or not somebody is going to run that four-way stop and somebody's going to pull out thinking that they are going to stop when they didn't. Well, on a new stop sign, you always run that risk. And we can put up signage and we can put up lighting that goes along with solar power, batteries, backup, and all that stuff. Nowadays, it's not as bad as it used to be. We can put up signs on Cutshaw stating, make sure cross-traffic stops before taking off. And we can leave that up for a while. And we talked about putting up signs, you know, for speed and everything else that we have. We can also put them same signs saying new stoplight ahead for 6 months. The same as we can do, you know, anything else. And also, if you do have a wreck there, you know, the chances of you having a wreck there is going to be a lot less likely if there's a four-way stop than what there is right now. During getting those 74 signatures, I could have probably moved faster last night, but I can honestly tell you 74 stories that I heard of close call accidents of everybody who signed this. If you work in an industrial setting, and I'm sure, Mike, you've heard this term, near misses. And near misses needs to be taken care of and looked at just as strongly as an accident. So that's where I'm at with it. I believe that the safety of everybody that travels down Slab Road, and I realize that some people who's just traveling north and south, who does not pull on the Cutshaw, doesn't want this. I get it. But the ones who've come across and almost been pulled out in front of is going to understand it. And by putting this in, this will also help the traffic pulling out on Lorry Lane, which is downhill from this intersection. And it will slow traffic down to make that a safer intersection too. So it's just not a matter of the traffic on Cutshaw, which has really picked up and turned almost into a main intersection through Scott County, almost as much as Slab Road. It also helps with the traffic on Lorry Lake. And so I think
We don't hear.
Mr. and Miss Lewis over here has,
She's Mrs. Lewis.
Mrs. Yeah. Mrs. Lewis
If
has
I may speak, I live at,
Turn the timer on, John.
I won't take as long as we live on East Cutshaw Road, and my job requires me to pull a trailer, an enclosed trailer. So tonight, on my way to this meeting, I took some pictures. I didn't bring my enclosed trailer to show it off, but if I can show you these pictures.
Was that in this county?
Oh, never mind. Yes. So this is if I sit at Cutshaw and Slab.
Yeah, I took that same picture today.
You did not. Did you? So this is if I'm sitting there and I'm in a perfect spot.
I didn't take a picture, but I was there twice today.
Yeah. That's if I'm in a perfect spot where I'm not gonna get hit with cross traffic. And then, that's what I see to the left. And if you scroll one way or the other, if you see cows, I apologize, because I have more pictures than just road signs.
Might get in trouble there.
If I turn to the right, hey,
Oh.
hey. If I turn to the right. That's what I see.
Yeah, I got that one too.
Okay.
I don't have a picture, but I saw it.
So then when I pulled out to where I could see to the left,
Yeah.
if you can see where the road is, half of my truck is out in the intersection to where I can see to pull out.
You can judge by your mirror.
Yeah. So
I don't disagree with you. I mean, I was there today,
Whether-
sat in the same spot, looked down, looked north, looked south.
Do you
They're
drive
up.
a truck?
Huh?
Do you drive a truck?
I drive a car, I got a Jeep.
Okay.
I drive a Ford Explorer.
Okay. Well, if you're in a Honda Civic or if you're in a Toyota Prius, you're closer to the ground and
Mhm.
it's much worse.
Oh, I get
What
that.
I saw there was both ways, some trees that need trimmed back.
That's,
That too.
I think they might have been on private property, but I think they're hanging on our property where we could probably trim them back.
And that would help.
Yeah.
That would definitely help.
Yeah.
I think if putting signs or extra signs alone
Yep.
without stop signs
Mhm.
would just make more stuff for us to look around to see traffic. So I think if there's gonna be more signs on there, then there should be stop signs. And I'm not speaking for everybody, but I'm speaking for myself because I'm pulling a trailer out into that intersection and some people have waved at me with one finger. And yeah, not the first one.
they've lost 4 fingers on it.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm worried about the safety of my family because she drives a small vehicle, my stepson drives a small vehicle, my other stepson drives, you know, and I just worry that something's gonna happen. And if I'm coming from the west, and once I pull out far enough to where I'm past the sign for the church, and then I look to the right, I've got this power pole right there. So, I mean, there's just so much going on that intersection that I believe that should be a four-way stop. Now, if I go north of 256, every intersection except for Boo Road
Mhm.
has a stop sign. Boo Road has a stop sign, but the road going past it does not.
Something else I saw today that makes a whole lot of difference or not. Every direction I went, Cutshaw Road, coming from either direction, there were signs warning you ahead of time at that intersection there. Everything except Cutshaw going east. There was nothing till you got the stop sign. That's probably not a big deal. I don't know. I just thought it was odd. Everything was signs everywhere except for there. Well, you're for the stop signs then?
Yes.
Okay.
John, any questions?
No.
Well, I went out there again today, and it's not the first time I've ever been out there. And as I said in the last meeting, I've got family that lives on that road since I was born, and they were there long before that. My grandmother actually gave the property to New Providence Church Cemetery for a cemetery, so I'm familiar with the area. I know it's grown up. I know it's people driving faster, and I'll be honest. When I was sitting on Cutshaw looking east, I got a picture of it. I had to look under the sign at the church to see any distance down the road, which I think is probably not a very good placement for their sign. And I really don't know how they ever got it put there without somebody complaining in the first place. But then I went over and sat on the other side looking back the other way and took the same pictures that you showed me. A lot of growed up shrubbery that needs to be pulled, trimmed. I don't know if they need to be trimmed. I think they just need to be, they're too close to the road in a line of sight that you can't see beyond where that grove of trees on the south side. And the fence line to the north, they let those trees grow up and and some brush underneath of it, and you can't see beyond that fence row. I'm not saying a four-way wouldn't be something that's good there. I've been to a few accidents there over my lifetime. A lot of them serious accidents because they involve speed and most of the time people, that intersection, and I didn't go back and look at if you had times on those accidents you pulled, but same thing happens at 56 and 31 on almost every intersection in the evenings and in the daytime, in the mornings. Sun's hitting you in the face, you can't see. Sun's hitting your face in the evening, you can't see. Would that change if it's a four-way? I don't know. I really don't have those crystal ball to know if it's gonna help or if it's not. If we're gonna think to do it to reduce speed, I don't think it's not gonna happen. Cars go 0 to 60 in about 4 seconds, so if they stop before they get to Glenn Miller's house, they're gonna be around 80 miles an hour. But I don't know.
I do see deputies at the church quite often, and
But nobody's going down the road that time.
Well, and that's always
Yeah.
that's like me going hunting. There's never a deer in the woods when I go hunting.
And I want to say one thing real quick on that. Jared, I see him there all the time too, and I want to tell you, I appreciate that. Because you recognize that they're going fast down that road, and that they're traveling, or you wouldn't have somebody there. And I do appreciate you doing that.
it makes a difference. It makes a big difference.
Well, when I was out there today, and I started out driving 45 miles an hour back towards Marshville, and then I looked down, I was running 50, and then I always look in my mirror because I always want to know who's coming up behind me or where somebody is, and nobody was there. But within the next quarter of a mile, somebody was on my rear end. I was like, where did you even come from?
I had to get home and you wouldn't get out of the way.
Well, all you had to do is blow the horn, I'd have moved over. But I don't know. I don't know if I hate to say this, and I'm not saying it's a dead topic if it gets voted down, because if I'm shown that something else can be done or whatever, and I'm looking at it, and I've actually pulled all the people's GIS records to know who lives in those houses that have obstructions that need to be taken care of, or I think trimmed back. And I actually called the highway department to see what our policy is on that type of thing, and they said every time they've ever approached a homeowner, the homeowner's always been more than happy to trim them, cut them, move them, whatever. So,
But it's not just trees and
I get that.
vines, there's vehicles that block you when you're trying to look down the road too, at times.
I get that.
And there's mailboxes that cannot go nowhere else where they're at.
But
So even if the stop sign is not the answer, something I feel like needs to be done too, because, you're just so limited on how far you can see. So you look to your left, and you look to your right, and you look to your left, like they taught you in school, and by the time you get out there, and then you have a trailer behind you, then whenever you didn't see anything, now that person, no names mentioned, Randy or Mike, is on you at 65 mile an hour, then something's.
I get that. And they're in the
Now there's the two speeders on our
Yeah.
road.
How this conversation started was we were trying to figure out a way to reduce speed on Boatman, Lake, Slab, all these straight line roads that don't have a break in them and no curves that slow somebody down, and we looked at actually there were 7 roads, and we had an engineer look at it, and it would come back $35,000 to do a road study to even be able to change the speed to something lower than 55. And that's the kicker, the people, like I said, before I hit 56, I was running 55 because this girl was eating my rear end up. But she wasn't obviously running that, so, but I don't know if 55 is the right speed limit. If it is, then it's fine, but people aren't running 55, they're running 65, 70 miles an hour. And so we talked earlier in the last meeting about and actually Jerry brought it up about a portable, or actually like they have on Boo Road, it's a sign that tells you how fast you're going. I have looked them up, they're anywhere from $4,500 to $10,000, depending on what you want. But
Some people use that as a reference to see how fast they can, how
clock
they can get it.
make sure their speedometer's right.
Yeah.
But where we were going with that was, there are some that take a camera or picture of your driver's or of your plate on your car and we'll send you a ticket. Happy New Year. But is that the answer? Because just like 65, somebody knows where somebody knows where the police officer said, and they're going to slow down when they see him, speed up when they were gone. So I don't know what the answer is. Is it a stop sign? Is it not a stop sign? Is it, I guess we'd go out there and dig potholes in it and make them slow down. So
Tammy was nice enough to look up the records of when this was tried once before, and I think it's like 35 years ago.
87. I
Yeah.
talked to one of the guys that was there when it was put up, and he said it was a mess.
Well, anyway, the question that came to my mind then, somebody made up petitions. There was 40 people wanted this stop sign, 139 or 40, no, how many? 110 was against
It's
it.
109
109.
who were against the stop signs, it's
Okay.
40-something who were for it.
But apparently, the way I got, the information I got together, the stop sign was actually put up. And that's when the wrecks started getting bad. And I'm not too sure that's when 109 people didn't come in and petition to take it down, but they took it down. Now, when you say things like this, you gotta remember that was 35 years ago. And probably traffic's a lot worse now than it
Oh,
was
it's heavy.
35 years ago.
And people are
And
traveling faster.
I also wonder if, and Jerry knows this too, now you would too, anybody that's been involved in law enforcement end of it, I don't know how they put this out to the public. If you just vote and go put a sign up, people are gonna start running it because they won't know what's there. But before you go putting four-way stops up, you gotta give probably at least a month of the newspapers, radio, and everybody else, let the people know what's there. And if then they accept it, it's successful. So I don't know what happened exactly then. Maybe if you talk to somebody, they do know, but I do know that people wanted it gone after they put it up.
One of the signs I think got mowed over. That's where one of them went. So they only had to pick up one. So, and the one in the church parking lot got mowed over. But
So anyway, and we've looked at signs before. Mike was talking about it. I started to look at a couple signs, a couple places before, because some of the neighbors wanted it. And no sooner we started getting close to getting there, I started getting the phone calls. No, we don't want it. So you're right, it's confusing on exactly what's the best way to go. And so I'll vote no again tonight, so at least we'll get another reading out of this. But I'm keeping my mind open, I think you are too, because I'm not sure either.
well, I'm not for sure that it's the solution.
I'm not either.
And line of sight may not be the solution, but it sounds like it is in your situation. Now,
It is in mine, that
he needs to buy you a
necessarily-
bigger car is what he needs to do.
Can't afford gas. She's too high maintenance.
I agree with you.
The other thing, so say is this still open for discussion?
Yeah.
Okay. So the other thing is, if there's not a stop sign there, then there's a whole row of houses to the north at that intersection.
that back out.
Possibly that should be a different speed limit. I know the speed limit, if it's not marked, then it's 55 on the end roads. I get that. I asked the previous sheriff about that. That's the answer I got. But if you could imagine being in one of those houses and having to back out of your driveway on a 55 mile an hour, I mean, it's just
Huh? Yeah.
That was a funny thing I noticed today too.
very
You,
lucky.
But it's not 55, I mean, they're not driving 55.
you can get on the slab at the
Yeah.
56 and go all the way to Marshfield, and you won't see very many houses.
Right.
But as soon as you get into that area, Marshfield, and start going on, it picks up tremendously the amount of homes there. And especially once you get to that intersection.
And we already have a deputy there a lot at the, so maybe that could be an option.
I'm not
Having a, say, 35, 40, or something not 55 plus, not marked at all.
Yeah.
Some kind of indication that we need to slow down. You know, if you go on the highways, the state highways, and there's a hidden intersection coming up, it says 40 mile an hour, and it's got, you know.
Curves or something.
Do people abide by it? Probably not, but at least they're aware of it. So maybe they're, and it's not just that intersection, there's several intersections throughout the county that, when there's a whole slew of houses, there needs to be a different speed limit than 55, or nothing marked at all.
Yeah,
And that's just my opinion,
I
because
agree with you.
somebody, it's gonna take one softball to go out in the road, and that kid's gonna go after it.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not gonna end pretty.
And that was on Boatman Road where we were talking about, there's a line of houses there north of Little York Road. And, I made the suggestion to the lady, cause she was calling me saying, I've called everybody and I'm not getting any resolution of people flying down this road, and I've got little kids out by the road. And so, in this meeting, I suggested, hey, how about putting a stop sign there? And they have to stop, you know, but again, car starts, you got somebody that's got a nice looking car, I mean, or it's gonna go 0 to 60 in about 4 or 5 seconds. I mean, so does it deter them to stop? I mean, it deters them to stop. Does it slow them down? It does for a second. Then they're, as one of the complainants said, well, now they're gonna squall their tires as they take off at 3 o'clock in the
And throw
morning.
the McDonald's bags in my yard.
So, I don't know what the solution is. I mean, it is a state law, I believe. We've checked with the attorney. Every county road in the state of Indiana is 55 miles an hour unless they've done a road study and reduced the speed themselves. But the speed limit is 55.
Unless it's considered an urban
Yeah,
district,
that's
in
correct.
which case there's a different requirement. There's also a weird provision that deals with county roads that maybe have multiple lanes.
That might be something
I
that,
don't think that changes, that has nothing to do with.
but what you're saying is a good idea, I guess, is to go back and look at doing the road study on at least 2 of the roads. We did 7, and the price was outrageous, I thought. So maybe we start with a couple of roads and reduce the speeds on those. And again, what you're saying is maybe it is 55 when there's no, you're not in a group of homes. But when you cross over north of Cutshaw, then it reduces the, 45 miles an hour or something. I mean, at least it gives somebody a fighting chance to back out of the driveway. I know Randy alluded to the hill there at Laura Lane. I mean, that is a blind hill. I mean, it's terrible. I don't know who,
There's a curve right before it, coming from the north.
yeah, it is, it's just a bad. I mean, well, my cousin lives right in the curve, so I know
And
exactly where it's
I was
at.
starting to say, when I drove the curve yesterday, because to go through Austin, there's a 35-mile speed limit at that curve.
Yeah, that, you're
Just-
talking about on Slab?
Yes,
Yeah, but
yes, curve.
It's just, somebody's put it up there because it doesn't mean anything, I don't think. I mean, there's one in my neighborhood too, but it doesn't mean that that's the speed limit.
Unless there's.
Unless they've done that, but I know they probably haven't. They probably put it up there just like the sign that says no semis out there, but they didn't come to the commissioners and ask for that, so.
It could even be a problem.
So,
Yeah.
What I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna keep bringing this up, and I'm gonna keep bringing this, keep voting on it all the time. And I'm not doing that to be a pain in the butt. I'm just doing it because the life I say, may be my neighbors. And I got 74 signatures and never made it to Terry Road in a matter of 2 hours. Now, I don't know what the magical number is before it's a popular thing to do. And call me silly, but I think, one of the best ways to protect your tax base is to keep your taxpayers alive. So we can, and this is by no means a threat, I'm just telling you, I am going to keep bringing this up because safety is the #1 thing we need to be concentrating on through this board. And I understand that there's a lot of people who don't want, I understand that there may be an accident. But hey guys, we have accidents there now. And until we get a stop sign up and everybody's used to stopping at it, you're going to continue to have accidents. And Tracy, you have one.
So until you guys figure out what you're gonna do, will somebody please at least go and trim some of them
Well,
limbs and things
I
back?
pulled, yeah, I agree with you there, and that's
Will
why I
we do
said,
it?
well, again, I know that, I now know who lives in those houses, and I'm gonna ask, I'll either send them a letter asking them, hey, would you, or I'll go knock on their door and say, hey, would you trim your bushes or allow the highway department to trim your, that area? Because it is in our right of way. I mean, everything that I'm looked at is in our right of way, so.
And those people may not even realize it.
And they,
Because they don't use that intersection the way we use it.
and you're probably exactly right. I mean, and like I said, talking with the highway department today, they said they've never had anybody they've ever went in an intersection and asked to cut something down or mow something back, and they've never been denied, and nobody's ever gave them any heck about it, so. But, Randy, to answer your,
That is that's our right of way, right?
Yeah.
Where we think these are.
It's-
Okay.
it's within a few feet of the roadway.
The trees may be on private, but the limbs are hanging over.
I understand.
But to answer your question, Randy, you can bring it up. I mean, I'm never going to tell somebody they can't bring something up. I mean, and I've done the same thing. I mean, when I sat on this board early on, I kept bringing something up and it kept getting voted down, so, but that's your right to do it, and I'm not saying that, I'm not saying that I wouldn't agree with this, but I don't know that a four-way is going to slow people down and on that road, and
Well, I don't think it's gonna slow people down, but it's gonna give somebody a fighting chance coming off Cutchaw.
I get that,
That's
but I also believe, just as Alan said, I believe that Aaron, shit, sorry. But,
You're okay.
What?
I don't care. But anyway,
The real Mike just stood up.
anyway, I'm fine with that. But I still think it's a line of sight, especially going out there today and looking both ways. It is a line of sight problem, and just like you said, I can't see until I pull out so far that I'm in the middle of the roadway. If you could see, then you would know I can pull out or I can't pull out. So, and I'm not talking about just Cutchaw and Slab. There are hundreds of roads in this county that has the same problems.
Lake Road and Lake Road.
Oh yeah, you can't see there. I mean, you just weasel out till you finally see that you're out in the middle of the road and you can go on. But this isn't the only problem we have in the county as far as, an intersection. I mean, and would a stop sign fix it? I have no clue. But right now, I'll, if this is just a second reading, I'll vote yes on it just to move it down and we
Yeah,
can
good
discuss
more.
it more. I mean, it's not a dead topic. Even if I vote no, it's not a dead topic, because if, a month from now, 2 weeks from now, somebody comes in here and tells me and convinces me that, hey, you know, this is the best thing since sliced bread, I'm open. I mean, so it's not a Mr. Negative, and I'm never gonna look at a different angle of it, so.
So even if there is an accident and they go through the stop sign, that's another ticket that they can get for running a stop sign and then causing the accident. Right now, there's no ticket for running anything.
Well, if you're running over the speed limit and they can determine the rate of speed that you were running, that's a ticket.
Yeah,
So-
but then they can get you for speeding and not stopping at the stop sign and the accident.
Plus, line of sight does not help the houses that are in that area, and line of sight does not help the people pulling out on Lord Lane, like a stop sign.
I get that, but reducing speed does, and I think our avenue is to change, do what we were doing in the beginning and do the road surveys on this road, and I don't know if it's Boatman Road's the next worst culprit, but, and then, you know, reduce the speeds in those areas, reduce the speed on the whole road, and reduce the speed in those areas where people are trying to back out of their driveways and stuff, so.
I'm not trying to argue, but reducing the speed doesn't mean speed limit sign does not mean somebody's gonna reduce their speed.
I get that, and,
Stop sign don't mean they'll stop.
I mean,
Well, that's true, but more people will stop at the stop sign than they will reduce their speed.
well, I'll vote yes tonight. I mean, it takes
Well,
3 readings.
It does, I wanna correct kind of, I guess that do we have some form of an ordinance that requires 3 readings?
I'm not sure, I think that's the path we started down, because I advertised it twice, and then I think, is it typical, like, this is a public ordinance, so I think it does require, since you're changing it's a public, it's not an admin ordinance, I
Well,
think that's what.
The only thing that I've ever said is that in terms of the legislative procedures statutes for county business, is that you cannot pass an ordinance in a single meeting without unanimous consent.
Okay.
So not that there's a particular number of readings that's required. I think 3 is the preferred number of readings in Robert's Rules of Order. I don't know that we've ever specifically adopted, and I don't know that there's many. I think those are like the default rules, right? That nobody officially adopts them. I just, in terms of requirements at this point, it's been read and passed at one meeting. If it were to read and pass at a second meeting, you know, effectively it's passed.
So if you have a majority vote tonight, then it's passed.
Unless you are interpreting it as being your
Second reading.
a second reading only, and then you're still requiring a 3rd reading. I just don't know.
That's what I'd prefer. Do it 2 more weeks.
So would a motion then to have a 3rd reading?
Pass it on a second reading, 3rd reading to be scheduled for the next regular meeting.
And it won't be effective until after it's passed on a 3rd reading?
Well, and
Is that right?
it will not be effective until, if it passes on a 3rd reading and
The stop signs
the
and
stop
stuff?
signs are in place at each of the entrances.
Gotcha.
If you guys want to, you go ahead and vote on it tonight. August 3rd, I'm going to be bringing it back up again. So you can vote on it, you know.
You can bring it up.
I know.
You can bring it up every
I'm
meeting.
just saying, so it doesn't matter if you vote on it tonight or not. You want to go ahead and say no, August 3rd, I'm going to be bringing it up again, so you'll have a chance to do it again then, so.
All right, well, I guess,
I vote no.
I'll entertain a motion to, I guess, accept this is how it's gonna work, is that it's gonna be a yay vote, and if you don't get 2 yays, then it's voted down, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to pass ordinance 2022-006, an ordinance is designating an intersection as a stop intersection and direction and placement of stop sign. And this particular intersection is Cutshaw Road and Slab Road, sections 4 and 5 Jennings Township. So I'll entertain that motion.
I'll make a motion to pass it.
And before I vote, I want to get clear. We was talking a minute ago, if we vote it down tonight, or if it's 2-1, and I vote no, do we get 2 more weeks or not, Zach, to vote on this again? I kind of want to put it off 2 more weeks as well.
There's no statute.
I mean, what do we need to do tonight to make it, get 2 more weeks
If
out
the
of it?
goal tonight,
Is to
again,
extend.
without getting involved in any of your all's individual votes, because I think that what you believe in terms of the evidence that's been presented, the people that have come to discuss one way or another, what is best, I think using your common sense, whatever your vote is, if you wanted to defeat the ordinance, the vote is to bring it to the table and then make a determination as to your vote today. So saying yes or no today.
Now you confused me
But if
more
you
now.
want to, if he, John's wanting to extend it 2 more weeks, how does he get?
Yeah, if it's a 3 vote, I realize, or if it's 1 vote against it, it would,
Well, that's a motion to table it, I think.
I would rather table it than I would vote it down or up tonight. I don't know what you're
That's
thinking, but.
up to you.
I'd rather, I mean, we can wait another 2 weeks.
Yeah,
It's gonna come up again, so.
that'd be,
So, Randy, will you, can I, remove my motion?
Well, there's a motion to pass on the
That's,
floor.
that's why I'm asking.
So do you want to amend that motion, or do you want to make the motion right now for a motion to pass?
I don't see what makes a difference. I mean, I could go ahead and make a motion. Again, I'm going to bring it up, you know, to the next meeting, so we can do it all over again, if that's.
Well, my whole thing, and here's where I'm gonna go.
I'll amend my motion to go ahead and leave it on the table for now, I guess.
I prefer that.
Randy amends his motion to push it to the next meeting. John,
I'll second that motion.
and I'll make that unanimous. So,
We'll go to August 3rd.
Before I found out tonight that Jerry and I won't write tickets, and I'm not threatening you.
That is not what I didn't mean. In general.
In general,
in
okay,
general,
all right.
It's not a good political move to go around making everybody mad at election time.
I'm joking.
Yeah.
all right. I guess,
2 more weeks.
Unless you're me. I
Yeah.
do that all the time anyway.
since Jeff's not here, so, we'll say this, EMA, or, NDOT showed up today, called yesterday, said they wanted a meeting with, some people down at the 31 road closure by Radio Tower Road. There were several people down there, talked with, the construction engineer and the people that were building it, and pretty much they were, and kind of upset me in the fact that you got a project going on and you wait till the road's closed, and then you go, hey, what happens if the interstate's shut down? You should have thought about that before you shut it down, and before all that communication to me should have been handled prior to that. What did happen out of that is that if something happens on I-65, let me back up a second. I'm almost gonna say the reason he called that meeting and the reason that he was there with as many people as was there is that he probably got bombarded with phone calls from Scott County residents. And kudos to them, but he did say that, and he understood that semi-traffic cannot be on county roads. And they are going to, with signage, and if they have to, they'll take flaggers, they said, out and direct people away from state or from county roads. And so there is a plan out there of some sort that, and it's them working with the sheriff's department, it's them working with Indiana State Police as far as who's working the accident on the interstate and getting the road opened up as fast as they could possibly open it up, working with towing companies that says, hey, wait, if the vehicle's off the roadway, open the highway back up at 3 o'clock in the morning when nobody's out there or traffic's limited, go back and clean the mess up. So that was what they talked about with that part. Then some other part is they're gonna use some signage boards. They were talking all the way to Sellersburg, telling, hey, if there's an accident in that Henryville exit, the, Crowsville exit, that semis are not, here's the directions for the semis. They're supposed to stay on state roads, whether that's getting off at Memphis or Sellersburg or whatever and going to Charleston and coming up 3 or whatever they gotta do, but they're not to be in our area. So, and I know that looks happy as all get out on paper, but it's gonna happen. And, but they are trying to, diffuse some of that issue. Something that came out of that meeting was the closure that I thought was gonna happen August the 16th, I believe, is not gonna happen on West 56 because they're having an issue with utility lines, and so that is probably pushed off to next year. So that's a positive.
And also this closure is forecasted to run until Thanksgiving.
Yeah, they said it'd be back open by Thanksgiving.
Well, let me say this, their website says December, but I think their goal was by Thanksgiving, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, they said that they've already moved up because of materials and
Yeah.
their work, that they've already cut time off that, so.
I thought they were helpful today. I thought they were helpful today.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, how much they get done is another thing, but they were sincere, I think, of wanting to work with the locals.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do too. I think it was, I've got to agree with Mike here, that it was maybe a little naive to think that we can go from here to Thanksgiving without an accident on 65.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they was there, and they're genuinely trying to do something about the health. So.
Well, I got the impression that they even kind of didn't like the way it worked out either, that there's like somebody up in Annapolis and somebody that are doing the work aren't always on the same page.
Yeah, I think he mentioned that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, as you alluded, and it's happened on other main fare-throughs, state highway main fare-throughs, they go in there and put a separate bridge around it or a single lane and put a stoplight out there where you have, 31 north between Uniontown and Seymour, been like that forever. I mean, you get down, you gotta stop at stop sign, wait, or a stoplight, and you can't see the other traffic. It's a quarter of a mile away from you. But they decided 31 wasn't busy enough, I guess. But I hate to say it, but maybe before Thanksgiving gets here, they may throw another tile in the ditch and build a road around it, so.
We asked about that.
Yeah, it's all about money.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's the story there, so. Jerry, I'm sure they're gonna be calling you guys when something happens, so. All right, I guess, Jerry, you're up. Sheriff?
I'm going to Italy, so I'll see you in a month. It's Friday.
Italy?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, enjoy.
Yeah, that was 2 years ago.
See ya.
I don't really have anything, I was just coming back to see how you guys was gonna vote on the contract for after Zach had read it for the infectious disease doctors.
So, let me, and Sheriff, you guys correct me if I'm interpreting any of this wrong, because I don't exactly know. But I think that there was a question at the last meeting about whether or not this was in addition to the existing contract that we have with a company that provides a on-call nurse practitioner who also does on-site visits. And the answer to that question is yes, it is in addition to. This is specific to, that nurse practitioner is not specific as to what these contracts are about, which is, they're kind of related in a way. One's a physician services agreement for specifically infectious diseases. The other is a business associate agreement that's part of a requirement under HIPAA for release of certain types of protected health information. So you will see, let's see. And
Just, you may put it in like layman's terms.
go right ahead.
What this is that advanced medical offers us the basic service. So if somebody comes in and they say, okay, we're treating you and they got a hurt knee, advanced medical don't treat the knee, they send you to a knee doctor. If you come in and you say you've got something, you know, you need brain surgery, advanced medical doesn't do the brain surgery. That's what this agreement is when we have someone that has an infectious disease comes in, advanced medical does the basic, and then they always refer them to, they'd be referred to our HIV infectious disease doctors.
Yeah, so the HIPAA compliance part, section C of the physicians agreement, which requires that a business associate agreement also be part and parcel.
So they would be privy to the patient's information.
And if I understand correctly, one of these is with IU Healthcare, that's the business associate agreement.
Physician
No,
service.
Yeah.
that's the physician services
Yeah.
agreement, which has been our
This is nothing new.
third-party provider.
Yeah, this is nothing new. This is something that was had even before I
Sure.
was sheriff, so this is
So,
nothing unusual. So,
Yeah, so exactly what the sheriff said, the advanced correctional can offer like the basic checkups, you know, seeing
check temperatures.
patients and things like that, but when it comes to infectious diseases specifically, and with reference to HIV, I think in the agreement specifically, that is what we're really talking about when we're talking about these two agreements.
So it's something you've had over there prior to this.
Yeah, this was signed back, actually, whenever they had the initial HIV outbreak. It's when we got the services in the jail with the sheriff and fund.
So I'm gonna put it in my terms, so they're air traffic controllers for the sick.
I have no idea what that means.
It takes a specialized niche of doctors to reach certain
Yes.
thresholds and certain tighter levels of how active the disease is or isn't.
So they
It's very-
decide.
This is very
who
common.
each
Yeah, you decide where to go.
person needs to
Yes, yes,
Right.
exactly.
So that-
Yes, exactly. Like we have the obstetric, like we have girls that's comes in, girls that are pregnant, then advanced medical gives them the basic, but we have to send them to the obstetrician.
So
So
this
this
is
is something
specific.
in the budget.
Yes,
This is specific to board certified physicians and infectious disease, so it's just
I'm
a
trying to
different
find the amounts.
Depends on the need.
Right there's the amount.
level of training.
That's the year.
So I guess in the
For-
real world, you go to
It's
the
on
doctor,
page
the doctor
2.
recommend you this or what this place says.
Down at the
Stand
bottom,
in for the
at
doctor,
2 where it says
recommendation,
compensation, it says
recommendation.
14,
You need to go to.
14,
like you said, I get what you're saying, now,
20
like air
cents per
traffic
month.
controller, you come in, they send you to this one,
But, yeah,
yes, exactly.
yeah,
And for 12 months, that's what it is.
15 for 12,
uh,
did you say 18 for 12?
Yeah.
And then is this business
Actually, that's
associate?
not exact. I've just rounded it up, so it's 1449.20 times 12. That's the number.
That's the physician
17.
services agreement.
That's correct.
Okay, and then now this other business service associate agreement, does that have a charge associated with it too? Or is that just part of the requirement to have that agreement so you can have this
I
agreement?
don't think it has
Is it kind
It's
of a layered
together,
thing?
actually, both of
They
those
kind-
companies
they're
are
in tandem
together,
then.
yes.
Yes, okay,
Yes.
gotcha.
So
And then,
one's a business, the business part of it, the other one's the position.
and then Jerry, you can help me with this part. As a part of your HIV expenses, is this what you would take to counsel for, as part of like that revolving 25 that they look at when you run out, then this is part of it?
Yes,
Or is
it
this
would be,
part of the-
yes, no, this would be that, part of
Okay,
that, yes, ma'am.
because these are being tracked because there is interest on both sides
Mhm.
of the issue about what we're spending, what we need to be budgeting for and what's reasonable and all that. And that's, I'm gonna tie that into, we're tracking this very closely. And I'll piggyback on what Teresa has been working on too with you guys and Denise, as far as how we're gonna track this.
That needs to be known.
Yes, because they have requested reimbursement for the Indiana Department of Corrections inmates that they have over there for the HIV medical expenses related to them. And we have received to date $11,620.77 of what the council has appropriated, and that budget has spent from, that this is gonna be receipted to help us for the following year, okay? So we're starting to recoup some of the outgoing. Okay, so I wanted to show you that because we track that, and Teresa's gonna open up a special line in the budget to look at what we're receiving. She's gonna do a special receipt code so we can track everything we've been refunded. And kudos to your nurse who is making and taking extra care and effort to make sure that the
She's
state
going
pays
above
for
and
their
beyond.
inmates, okay? This, and the word's gotten back to us that this isn't the common thing. A lot of county jails just don't invest the time in trying to get this back. They spend it and it's gone, okay?
Yeah,
But
that's-
kudos to them, and this is really what you're backing up right here, is helping get this money back to us, okay? So that makes sense,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
Well, the kicker, and that's where I had conversations
Got
with.
attacked by like a bunch of,
Huh?
I'm sorry. I got hit by a bunch of flies.
It's that three-piece suit. But, no, that's why I had a conversation with the prosecutor and with judges about, not pressuring anybody or asking them, hey, why isn't Johnny sentenced yet? Because once they're sentenced, then everything goes back to the Department of Corrections. If they leave them in your jail, then you don't pay that medical bill, they pay the medical bill. You pay it, but you get reimbursed.
And that's only because Denise is doing that. That's not a responsibility of ours to do that. As they told Tammy that this don't happen. And it's happening because of Denise's extra hard work and doing it. She don't have to do that. She's doing it out of her own heart. And we're asking her to help out the taxpayers.
And I'm sorry, who is Denise with?
She's the nurse.
company?
Advanced
Yeah, I know she
medical.
is.
Advanced medical, yeah.
All right, well, so I guess back to my original question to you was, is this a budget line or is this something that is going to create a new budget line?
No, council has
If this is something
appropriated,
we've done in the past, then that money's already,
council has set aside monies that whenever there's expenditures that's related to HIV, they're wanting to see those. So if this is an additional that we have never, I think,
We've never paid for it because the state always did.
so they're
So
gonna
this
want,
would be
council's
new.
wanna see this, but council has basically a $25,000 revolving appropriation agreement with the sheriff over HIV only, so we're taking this one bite at a time. So they're wanting to see everything, so they'll see this, and when that line is appropriated, runs down, and it needs more, they'll appropriate more into that line, but they're taking it as it's expended. So they're appropriating, they'll expend, they'll appropriate, they'll expend some more whenever he runs out. So that way council is very aware of what HIV is costing the
all
county.
right, I got, that
Yeah.
relates
We
into
do not
that.
know at this point in time how much it's costed us so far this year.
If I had the computer and Teresa, maybe
Right.
to run it for me.
I guess that-
Yeah, but I could answer that, but I can't tell you today. I think, have they appropriated twice?
I'm not sure because they do that, the council does. I can tell you that they did tell us that the bills are running anywhere from 120 to 180 days behind. So,
Well, back to this again. You alluded a while ago that this was for if a female prisoner came in and she was pregnant, that
No.
this,
no, not that,
No.
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 That was just
an
part of it.
example
If
of
she
that.
came in and she was pregnant, she'd be that advanced medical would send her to an OB doctor. This here says if we got somebody comes in, they have HIV,
Okay.
that's the person advanced
that's,
medical.
all right, that's where I want clarification.
Yeah.
'cause
And he would
that's-
get a separate bill from the obstetrician, and he'd pay that out of his general medical expenses.
technically-
We're tracking this separate.
So
Okay.
technically, we're paying IU Health, to monitor or to what? What's gonna be their what's IU Health gonna do for us?
She's the actual doctor that would prescribe what the patients need.
The viral medication.
Yes, because that is stuff that's, so, and I can't talk about because I'm not a doctor, I'm not a physician, but the only thing I can tell you is that if somebody comes that has HIV, advanced medical can get in the most basic care they can for HIV, but then they pick up the phone and say, hey, Doc, Reese, or whoever it is, this is what we got, what do we need to do? And what this does is it allows us to have a steady rate, because if we don't have some more in the contract, then if we need attention immediately, then
So
it could be pushed.
that's what you're getting in effect, is that, the requirement to have a person who would be board certified is gonna be there, whether or not you sign this contract or not. The question is, what does that cost you if you do it with no contract? It's a little bit, I'm gonna compare, it's not exactly the same, but you lock down a gas price, right? You're locking in a price for services based on an ongoing need, effectively.
Okay.
And there are some, I would say, legal requirements in terms of providing adequate medical services
I get that.
within the jail.
But you said nobody else is doing this, no other jail's doing this?
No,
No.
they're not getting the money back, not that
Oh, okay.
they're not getting
That's the
reimbursed
contract.
because they're not messing with it,
All right.
so that's different.
I'm good.
And in times past, the grant did cover this, because
Yes.
the extra hours that were billed through advanced medical were paid for by grant funds. Now we're,
Okay.
going to be needing to expend them through appropriations that council has made.
Yes.
All right, so it's 1440.
1449.20.
$49.20, $1,449.20 a month. So I'll entertain a motion
Okay,
to allow the physical physician services contract with IU Med Center.
I'll make a motion.
Randy made a motion,
I'll second.
John seconds it, I'll make that unanimous, so.
Real quick, I want to ask you, and it's a two-part question.
One that's gonna be signed.
This,
If you guys don't mind to
so I'll
sign
give
these.
you, and this is to give you a chance to address it.
You might have signed too.
Somebody, well, we know that COVID's on the up.
Mhm.
Somebody said that there was an outbreak at the jail, or the COVID's running high at the jail. Is that true?
We have COVID in the jail, it's been kind of nonstop for the
Just
last
ask
6
for the
months.
commissioner approval.
It ebbs and flows depending on,
Are you a high or a low, or do you know?
we're running a little bit higher now, we don't have like the whole jail like that, but we have some inmates, I don't know the exact number. But what we've done is we've locked the inside of the jail down.
I think it's.
So we started taking
that one,
special
Mike.
precautions to keep people from coming in, going out, and also the prisoners that are in there.
I don't know if we all got a sign or not.
It's just one.
There's not a whole lot you probably could do if somebody comes in to a jail cell and they've got COVID. Somebody else near them is going to end up getting COVID, right?
Yeah, we've got a isolation protocol that we do. Unfortunately, when people come in, we can't, some of them we can, you know what I'm saying, turn away. But folks like with DUI or other charges, if they have a warrant, we have to take those people in.
Right.
So when they come in, we isolate them. We test everybody and we isolate them for
The best
10
you
days.
can because you are
Exactly, it's a
overcrowded.
facility, yes. So, yeah, we have COVID, we've had it coming and going. We just, COVID new is like every other jail in the state's got it. It's coming and going because you can't keep track of the people. Like when you arrest somebody today, they don't test positive for COVID, and all of a sudden, 2 days later, they got it.
Right.
So it's one of those things where we try to keep people isolated. And I'm just gonna tell you, this is something that we're gonna be fighting for ever, probably.
Oh, yeah, it's not going to.
So, yeah, so we've got the protocols, we've got the procedures set up to minimize the risk to the county, basically, is what we've done. And try to keep our prisoners safe as we can, and our employees safe as we can.
Are inmates, have to wear masks or anything?
Well, we've got different protocols for different people, but yes, inmates, I mean, that's an impossible question to ask because the inmates just don't walk around everywhere like they would on a playground or nothing, because some of them are confined to cells, some of them are not confined, so it's a really difficult question to answer in a general terms. But what I can say is that all inmates who have contact with people, including our employees, are supposed to have masks on and do have masks on.
So, but I mean, if, say you got 6 people to lock, cell block, they're not wearing masks on their faces.
Not unless they have contact with the outside folks. If they have contact with our jailers or anybody that's outside of that cell, Because when they're inside of the cell, it don't matter, they're all in there together anyway. So we've got them isolated, we've got them contained, so it wouldn't do no good to have a mask on in there. So,
Right.
we're just following CDC.
I'm mainly giving you an
Yeah.
opportunity to speak on it because I've been asked questions
Yeah,
about it.
that's no
and-
problem. Yeah,
it
we're
gives you
following, we're following CDC guidelines. Obviously, same thing we did last time. We're following every guideline we can, keep everybody safe as we can. As a matter of fact, we look at those guidelines and we go above it. That way we can say, hey, not only are we following the guidelines, we're going above the guidelines to make sure that we're doing what we can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to do that obviously for, our employee safety, our inmate safety, officer safety, you know what I'm saying, everything is all together, so we do that, that's absolutely. Plus, advanced medicals, you know what I'm saying, they do a good job with that, we have a very good nurse who keeps track of everybody, and we test constantly on that when we think somebody's got something.
Okay,
Sounds good.
thank you.
All right.
Two-part question, you said, is that both parts?
Well, I'm sorry, you answered the second part in your explanation on it, so.
Yeah.
All right.
Zach, can I get the original to send back to the doctor, she got it?
And
Okay,
there's one on there for you to sign too.
And you've got a copy already?
And I've got a copy of it.
Okay.
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see y'all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
And just to clarify too, that January was an overlap year for the HIV med, or overlap month for the HIV meds, but this is tied to February, March, and April. So we're through that, and you said they're running about 180 days behind.
Yeah, it just depends
So-
on what company it is. Like if it
So-
goes through medical, it's a lot slower because we go back and they'll send us the original bill. Then our ladies will go back and try to fight the price, get cheaper and that kind of stuff.
Yes.
So it just depends on, when they finalize things.
But we've been reimbursed basically about $3,900 for 3 months already this year, so it's good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One second. Nick?
I have no financials because nothing has changed since last week. First thing's just for you.
That looks good, thank you.
Yep, that's some of what I gave you last week was also on.
That looks good, thank you.
That's me.
Oh, you did, okay.
My credit. No. So it's just added on to what was there. Two things that I'm here for. First one is the coroner contacted me last week. Told me that I guess his room is done or close
Yeah.
to being done. Or
It should have been done,
yeah. Anyways,
just never mind.
it's ready to be used. One thing that he is short is a stretcher or some type of table that goes in the cooler because you can't just put them on the ground. They have to be off the ground.
He should have 3 coolers, or he should have at least 2 cots. I personally bought them. I didn't buy them. I ordered them and she paid for them.
Apparently they're one short for, I guess it's a 3-person and they have 2.
That's correct.
Yep. So I have extra ones that are no longer under warranty for what we can use them for. But before I just give out a $10,000.
County property,
Correct,
which you can't do.
correct. And before I just give away a $10,000 piece of equipment to another department, I wanted to make sure you guys are, I'm not using it, it's sitting in a Connex box. And I'd be more than happy to let him use it.
So it's not one of the power ones that
Mm-mm. No, I didn't want to do a power one because the battery would die in, an hour in
in
there.
the coroner's room.
Yes. Bad choice of words.
But at least it's one government.
It's a
Given
man.
to another government.
Correct.
entity,
Yeah.
so.
I mean, it's sitting out there.
Nick, I appreciate you working together with other departments and so they can save quite a bit of money. It's good. Kudos to you. Thank you.
I think it's all right.
So as long as you,
Is this a loan, or is this just, is it just a loan it to him, or do you want to smooth it as far
I
as?
mean, I can do it to where it's our property and he uses it because it's one of those things I don't want to get thrown away. I mean, we could always use it for training down the road if he doesn't need it. But right now it's sitting in a Connex box that is just taking on heat, so.
I think that's fine.
Okay.
Oh, so
So
by
we-
consensus?
Yes. Randy, you
I'll
good
make
with
a
that?
motion to allow you
Oh,
to
okay.
use it, or give this, allow use of your stretcher to the coroner's office.
Okay.
Second.
I'll make that unanimous.
Okay. And the second thing is, actually 2 more. The second thing is the single piece of paper behind Randy's piece of paper. is, just putting this out there for a FYI. There's a grant out there for a wheelchair van, which is out there. If you guys are interested in that information.
Can you go over that again,
So
please?
this, okay, without,
That's a different level of EMS service, isn't it?
yes and no, it's, most of them still require a basic EMT to operate in case there's a medical condition, but it doesn't require a partnered pair or a stretcher or any of that. This grant is for the unit itself, like the van itself, plus the load and all that stuff. Anyways, what is one of our biggest feats, especially between hospitals and nursing homes, is the term of meeting medical necessity. If a patient doesn't meet medical necessity, we're not supposed to transport them or bill them. We cannot transport them and bill their insurance, because then we're trying to justify a cost that isn't there. So Zach's in a nursing home, but he can walk, and he doesn't require a stretcher, and we transport him anyway. The only thing we can charge is $25 for the fee, because he didn't meet the need for an ambulance. The problem is,
So you're just getting a basic
thanks.
cab ride on.
Yep. The problem is, it's not fair to the patients from some of these facilities to have to sit at the hospital or wherever that can't drive but don't meet medical necessity to just sit in a waiting room. I'm not a huge proponent of this, because then it's us going down an avenue that, but the need is in the community. So I was just bringing it to your attention. Pretty much what it is that it's that bridge gap for the people that can't drive themselves because there is an ailment there and need an ambulance.
So
But,
this, if we go down this avenue,
mhm.
which I think we probably should, but if we do go down this avenue, that means that you're gonna need another driver, correct?
One person,
One person. And so you'll have to add on to your staff.
not one person.
So my question is there enough calls out there to pay for that person's salary?
That I don't want to answer in a definitive, because I honestly haven't researched what the mileage charge is and what this is and what that is, and I don't get actual figures from the hospital of how many times they would need one. They just call us when we're their last resort, and
So
if things.
What do you do now?
Two things.
Take the stretcher out and
No, depends on the time and the situation. Sometimes we'll just take them and bite the bullet, especially if it's going back to a nursing home. Or sometimes we'll use like my vehicle to do it, just because they can get in there and we're not tying up an ambulance, so.
I'm like Randy, I guess.
The need is there. I don't know if the need is my responsibility though, just to be honest.
So do you know and I know kind of piggybacking off what he kind of already said, but do we know, a number that would justify the need? I mean, is it 10 times a year? Is it 100 times a month?
It's probably 10 times a week, minimum.
Okay,
And
so.
we get very little out of it.
So
Yeah.
we're
I
talking.
mean, right now we do, because we don't have a wheelchair class base rate, so we can't bill for it because we're not a wheelchair
Is
subsidy.
there anybody besides you that can do these services?
You, if you wanna get an LLC,
No, I'm
like,
serious.
there's no one else in the, like, no. You can, I'll say this, a private entity.
But you're talking, Matt, this is not an ambulance that has medical treatment facility inside of it. It's
Nope.
just a ramped or a lift chair thing.
Correct.
I thought it might fall
So
under
our
the
family's got one down.
old medical transport people used to do that all the time. That would fall.
So a lot of.
We don't even have that anymore, do we?
A lot of services, bigger services, especially hospital-based services, have this, but it's because it benefits the hospital more than it benefits the EMS side, because it discharges people from the hospital without them having to sit there to wait.
The grant, is it 100% grant?
Yes.
If,
Is it the only way to get this grant is to go through EMS?
Yes.
Okay, so the only way to have this
Yes.
service is to have this person work under your department?
Yes. And to make this clear, this is the grant for the vehicle, the lift, and what would get the unit itself,
Right. Not the person?
not the person.
So it's a-
Okay. So, my next question is gonna be, do you have, the need to have a part-time person out there to take care of other things so that we can, could we benefit from this person in some way when they are not actively making runs?
Yes.
Okay.
So you're doing this service now?
No. Well,
You're getting.
Yes and no.
Cause you said like
We're-
10 a month, or 10 a
some of
week.
them, we just tell them no, and then it's a fight
Okay.
between us in the hospital or
Yeah.
nursing, not a fight, but you know what I mean? It's like, I can't have the guy walk into my ambulance and say, take me home. Like, that's not, we can't do that.
So is it a normal, it's not, it's obvious it's not a normal charge, like a ambulatory type of charge?
So right now, you know, Southeast Trans, you've heard that term, that we have to deal with for certain insurance people. Sometimes they'll call us when they literally can't get anybody else and say, hey, we will give you $25 plus mileage to take this patient from point A to point B, knowing that they don't meet medical necessity.
Well, the other part of this is that,
But the problem is it's tying up a truck that can,
I was gonna say, is it interfering with your business that you?
it's caught us a few times, but we're not doing this long distance right now. Like, I'll go 0.6 miles from the hospital to the waters, or I'll go 0.3 miles from the hospital to Lake Point. Like, I'm not going from here to Clarksville doing it. We're not, no.
So I'm
but you have
guessing
that
this is,
capability of,
We will, correct.
I'm guessing you're gonna triage it just like anything else. You'll take, if you got a serious something, you'll take that before you take this. This will just.
Oh,
have to-
absolutely.
This just have to wait,
Correct.
yeah.
so,
Do the care facilities provide transportation?
Very astute observation. Every nursing home in this,
You're astute.
county has one.
as a lift.
And it's. sits
Whether they have a
most of the
driver or not
And
is
it-
the question.
yes, and I've observed they sit
Um,
most of the time.
The problem is they have the physical unit of wheelchair mobility, but they don't have a driver for said unit, or they're too short-handed, or they're too short-staffed, and the big thing is, 2 of the facilities in the county are actually pretty good about it.
Yeah.
The problem is their driver goes home at, like noon or 2, or they only come in on days they know they have stuff scheduled. So if there's nothing scheduled for that day, they're not there, and they don't have anyone that's certified to drive it.
Well, that
And
was
then
the
it's-
question I had, do you see any of these at night, or most of them in the daytime?
Zero.
So they're
I mean,
all-
even like SIT, like the Southern Indiana Transport, whatever it is, that kind of is, Columbus and Clark's, Floyd, Bartholomew, Jefferson, Jackson, Scott, like those counties, they're even, a 8 to 4 type deal.
So my
Which
question,
would be something that, I'm not running a wheelchair van 24 hours.
Now, this isn't something you
I'm
can go
gonna have
on.
a question here, Tammy and Zach. If we was to, get this through the grant, and we was to hire a person to drive this, could we enter a contract with nursing homes to help pay that individual?
Contract? No, we could charge the facility for their pickups, though.
I assume not all these people you're picking up are in nursing homes. Some of them aren't their homes.
Would
some
this
are.
be a,
Yeah.
I'm using
Well,
a generic
quite
term,
honestly,
Medi-Cal.
the ideal
Is this
position
basically-
would be if they have their vans, which 2 of them I know have. I don't know if the third
They
one
all
does.
do.
Well, okay, all 3 of them do. If they don't have a driver, and we don't have a truck that will take their wheelchair, could we not?
It's their equipment and my people. I feel like that's a huge liability of who's on first and
So
what's
this-
on
this-
second.
So
and
you're
something-
really not making a medical run with these
This
people.
is-
They went for a doctor's
They're-
appointment.
they're a doctor.
It's still a medical run, but they're not being
X-ray.
treated. It's not for an acute
It's
condition.
not an emergency
Correct.
run.
Like for an X-ray or.
EMS is not treating the person they're transporting. We're
Yeah.
just transporting the person for treatment.
Or back. You're taking them
Correct.
from the hospital back to their living, they're at the nursing home where they're
This
living.
is like a
For the
kind
most
of-
part, it should be.
People who are wheelchair
It
bound.
is exactly what that is. It's, this grant is just gonna cover the cost of the initial purchase and or install on an existing fleet, just be aware the deadline for submissions for applications is August 12th.
And
So we are fast approaching, if not, I don't know if it's this meeting, do we have a meeting?
Yeah.
August the
Third.
3rd.
3rd, so you have one more meeting where you could potentially consider whether or not to apply. It's not,
I just didn't wanna
We
do
can
something, get it, then you guys say no, because then I turn down a grant through, ICHP, and then go, we're not giving these people anything ever again.
So somebody
Wow.
like Lifespan or New Hope or something would not qualify for this grant?
They
Because I
do,
know
but
a lot of
they
those-
just don't frequent this area and getting a hold of them. I mean, Switzerland County is over here with it. Switzerland County travels this far to help people over here.
Which sounds like something we wanna
If you're
have
not familiar,
people, but
that's
it sounds to me like it's more of a,
I think the
nursing
service is
home issue.
needed, but I think it's gonna be an additional hassle, which, I mean, it is what it is. I
Well-
mean, everything's a hassle, but I don't want you to think I'm pushing for this. I'm just letting you know there's a need in the community, in my opinion.
Where I'm gonna go with this is that I think that there probably is a need, and if we're transporting patients, I'm gonna say, then we need to be doing it as a county EMS service. Where I'm gonna say we're gonna hit a roadblock is you're gonna have a hard time explaining to the council to get money for another part-time person or a full-time person with benefits. And with that, you coming with numbers that shows that it's gonna pay for itself, you're gonna struggle. Now,
I'm not saying I can't get the numbers. I just haven't delved into it to get
I know.
permission
and
to.
that's a later,
Yeah.
obviously, kind of.
I think,
I can't get fuel, let alone I mean, I completely empathize with that.
but I'm saying that,
I don't have a problem at all wanting to help people if we can do this. What I don't wanna do is interfere with your job.
This would
Or
have to
you're
be a
interfering.
dedicated person, dedicatededly doing this, and if, it would be,
well, you wouldn't have to be a
Well-
medic at all, would you?
no, it would just
It
have,
could be Joe Blow.
I
correct.
kinda feel like we're
That
doing
goes through
this,
CPR and first
Yeah.
responder training.
I kinda feel like we're doing this for the nursing homes.
There is,
There's a need.
which the next topic that
Well, I
I'm
believe there's a
gonna get,
need, but they're at the nursing homes, most of these people.
I would say a majority, yes.
And,
Or
I mean, maybe they ought to work up
I
something.
know there were some that you transported home that the fire department always had to come and help.
Correct.
pick them up.
I know Denise
I
drives,
do.
our veterans to make appointments and stuff like
If there's a
that.
It's the
veteran.
same
in my-
But does
concept.
she have a wheelchair accessible? That she isn't at all, is she? That new, disabled
just a-
veterans vehicle does not have that on that, right?
It's just an Explorer.
No, this would have to be like a Sprinter van.
I'm gonna make a motion to let you go ahead and do this and, let you go to the council and see if you can convince them to, because, if you can turn around and end up helping our veterans in some way, I see.
I don't
We
know
got
that
a
that's,
procedure
yeah.
that's grant application, and he'll have to get this approved by council as well,
Right.
because there's outlay
Yeah.
of personal services that's gonna have to be appropriated, and they meet the 9th,
Right.
so there's no real,
So the way that these grants work is we can fill them out online and just not submit them
until they get council approval.
until the 9th, and then we can go in, open application and hit submit. Like, it's something I can work on, but
And I don't wanna be the
listen, you
fly
can
in
tell
the
me no
ointment.
and I'll move on.
Okay, but I see many vehicles that can be used for transport that's fully equipped, that sit at the county as when you drive around, and they don't have enough drivers to use those vehicles. So there's a need for a driver at some point in time. I think if you had a person who wanted to drive all day long, they could hire themselves out to the nursing homes and drive people around. I think that's what we're missing is the manpower, right? We've got vehicles across the county that have this equipment, but.
I agree with you to an extent.
Mhm.
I think the other part is the focus in which those nursing homes are putting on there. Because for so many years, and she can attest to this, it's been, if we can't do it, they're gonna do it, because the unfortunate predisposition for the hospital and some of these nursing homes is that we work for them, not with them. So it's one of those things, if we can't do it, just call EMS and they'll do it. And that's just, I mean, you've seen it, that's just,
So a
That's
vehicle
the-
like this would help you out in terms of
it
those
won't tie
type
up
of
my
patients.
trucks that actually treat acute patients.
So there's an advantage in that for you as far as an operation goes.
Correct.
But is that our focus is EMS? I mean, that's my question
That's the first thing I
here.
said, no.
Is that the focus? Is that our purpose as Scott County EMS? And that's just, I'm just asking that rhetorically. I'm not saying that it's not, we're not here to help our citizens. Yeah.
We don't have a whole lot of grant applications open for us that we meet all the criteria. This is the first one since I've been here that we've met all the criteria, so I just,
Yeah.
I went through that same
Did my
thought
duty.
process in my head too. And I guess the reason I'm going ahead and I'm wanting to make a proposal that we do it is because in thought that EMS, we're supplying a service
The health
for people.
department needs
And
to
we're trying to keep people with a better service in Scott County.
Why not?
And if we can pull this off to where we are offering more service to people who need it, then I'm all for it, as
And then
long as
there's
it doesn't break
appointments
us.
and deadlines and timelines, and if he gets, and then there's gonna need, that person's gonna need to be scheduling. Cause they're not gonna be able to meet every appointment every time somebody has one, they have to turn a lot of people down probably over the course of time too, because we're gonna have one vehicle, and that's all we can use. So it's just, it's gonna be a management
Yeah.
task, I'll put it that way. Might be a good free vehicle and a good service and everything, but it's going to create a position, and it's gonna create a lot
I
of
forgot what was on
responsibility for a person,
I
and
would
they're
say
gonna
it's
have to
probably
really
correct.
coordinate with a lot of different individuals and nursing homes.
For
to get
instance,
this
one of the
done.
nursing homes wants us to go to Indy next month.
And you can haul one person, right? And
You can
this-
haul up, depending on the vehicle, you can haul anywhere from 1 to 6.
No, that's a thought, I mean, that's more.
I mean, that's the thing
So
is
if you
like,
go to Louisville and you can make rounds. I
yeah,
guess.
that or even the local, if you open it up to private people, you've got the ability for open dialysis, you know? Like if
And
your
I'm,
appointment's at 7 and his is at 7:30 and his is at 8, you can pick them all up on the way and be like, I can pick you up and take you, but you're waking up early, and just take them all at once.
and I'm curious
Kinda
on whether or
like the
not we can have somebody from the health department, or maybe even add somebody to the health department, and whose full-time job is at the health department, but to be loaned out to Nick when he calls to go and do this for Nick, and at that point in time, switch over to that.
That would be a job description kind
Job
of ordeal,
description change
and workers' comp difference, and
Well, the
Money.
positive here is that it doesn't have to be an EMT or higher, it can be
The rate of pay
anybody.
doesn't have to be $20 an hour,
That's
correct?
exactly right, it could
You could
be,
really hire about anybody, couldn't
But
you?
it might be a way for
New job.
Michelle to get somebody extra to help them out, you know what I'm saying? And I'm just spitballing.
right, yeah, just,
But it might be a shared job until the need gets to the point where it's no longer a shared job, we just have to report to Nick. And then,
and if there's somebody that's wanting to be part-time and do something, and eventually the full-time, I mean, it could be something that evolves over time.
I just
Seeing how
mentioned
much
health
need there
department
is, yeah.
because she gets grants, and a lot of times the employees for the grants out there are not getting 40 hours.
They're
Well,
not supposed to,
if
they're making 35-hour weeks,
If they're
yeah.
getting grant money, I don't know that they can.
So this
They
this
can't
could
deviate.
work
it's
into
specific
something,
to what their job.
this may
classification is.
work into something that could help them type, or them employees to be able to get more hours
You can't do that. I don't
on a
think.
separate, well, they would be reporting to him, not the health department.
Well, they would be, here's the
Well-
thing, they would only have 5 hours extra a week wiggle room, and then they would be into overtime.
Yeah, we start hitting different requirements.
Which my department's notorious for.
Offering benefits.
Yes.
Yeah, I know.
Once you get past 40, yeah.
So we could vote on
Guys
this
only
tonight.
five together, so we'll-
You can wait till next week, too. Because
Well,
I
I
still have to
mean,
go to the council.
Well, we got 2 meetings, 2
They're
weeks,
definitely not two separate entities.
which is
Yeah.
what?
Because of the council.
August 3rd, you
One-
meet, and I think it's the
one
9th
One
at the council.
They
federal
meet on,
Council
they meet
meets
on the
next
ninth, we
week.
meet on the
Well,
third.
that's what I was gonna say, we could
Yeah,
pass
maybe
it,
an
if we wanted to
OT
pass it,
after
we
5
could, and you'd.
I'd
it
still have to
wouldn't-
wait.
And you just put it in, like you say, put it in your, fill it out, and be ready to punch the button,
Correct.
and you'd have time to go to the council, and if the council
Yeah,
can give you
yeah,
money,
ready
it's
to
it's
go.
done anyway.
That's a retiree job.
I think we're all smart enough to figure out how we can add another person. If we need to add another person for this, and we go ahead and vote for, allow him to try to get this.
So do you want to, get that
Again-
grant application
again,
form
it's-
kind of together
isn't
and
it
we can
truck?
get it signed?
It's a van.
Well, but we're buying, the grant.
The grant is for a van or the upfit of a lift into a pre-existing vehicle that would meet the criteria for a wheelchair van.
Okay, well, we don't have that,
Correct.
so it's a van.
We probably have a van that we need to sell.
It's $77,000 to buy it.
Plus the 9,000 if it needs to be outfitted with a lift. Or
I
if we
don't
had
read-
a,
I don't read it like that, I read it like,
If you already have a van, then
Cover the
$9,000.
cost to purchase wheelchair vans, so you're buying a van that's already outfitted,
Correct.
77. And wheelchair lifts to be installed in an existing
Vehicle.
That's, so I don't read it that way. but-
So it's a 77,000 plus 9,000?
no,
No,
just
no.
77,000,
If
since
you
we
had-
don't have the vehicle,
If
You don't
you
have
vehicle.
a vehicle in the fleet that meets,
I see.
the criteria for
I
just.
personally would like to wait till the next meeting to vote on it, just simply because I'd like to study it. That's the first I knew about it tonight. I'm making a
I found out
decision
about
on-
it this afternoon.
I'm making a decision on a new employee. I don't know how many hours they're gonna be
That's
working.
where I'm getting at, because council.
And we all like to save money, but I don't wanna be the guy that says, yeah, I'll spend it every chance I get.
And for
So
clarification,
we have
this is
a-
just for the grant, for me to do the grant.
But we have a couple weeks,
And
and
once-
we could still vote on this in 2 weeks and
Correct.
still get it done if we wait.
Correct.
Yeah, but he can still go, I
Yeah, he
think what
can-
I'm saying, I'm hearing you say is he can go ahead and fill out before the grant, but
Yep.
not
Submit it.
Yep,
admit it until,
I can prove it.
yep.
right.
Are
I
we-
guess that's what
And
I'm.
also, it's a good idea, it'd be a good idea for you to,
Of August?
Well,
Or did you make a motion?
Get some numbers.
the
I
count,
was
well,
making a motion
the
for
council
him
should have
to-
some information too, because
to
once their
fill out the
deadline's done, it's
application for
over.
the grant.
Mhm.
And moved it.
So they may be the same way I
I
am,
thought so.
look at this more before, and they don't have that choice, they just got one
Shut it
meeting.
down.
Right.
So maybe they need
Yeah, I
to
saw
get
that.
updated or something, or you can
Yeah,
send something to
basically
Rachel
what Tom's
or
saying.
her, and she could send it out to them or something.
All right,
So, in other words, I think they want you to get the
Got
paperwork
her back
going,
here.
go to council, talk to them about the outlay, and then you guys can do the
I can't
final full
respond.
on it.
this is
Right.
not emergency.
And I suggested to him that they give you a bunch of information to disseminate out to the council, so they don't have to make a
Got some
decision
Toradol.
in one meeting.
In one meeting to get it framed.
Everybody's gotta get educated.
Could
on
you
this.
scan that in and fax that to the, or email it to them?
Yeah, we can do that.
all right,
Okay, so
we're,
we'll table this until
gonna
the next
table it.
So
meeting.
they won't walk into it blind either.
what else you got?
The last thing, the last two packets are for your reading pleasure. There's not, there is stuff to discuss, just, I mean, you can ask questions now, but there's nothing that, a local physician had applied for a grant himself to, start, a pilot of community paramedicine within the community. In order to run that, you need paramedics. I just so happen to know where a few are. And he has talked to me, we have not talked in great detail, we've just talked on the assumption and provisions of what if and a lovely coalition of aligned stars, but about providing a pilot community paramedic, which I talked about in my interview, I know, months ago, providing a pilot community paramedicine program within the community.
What is this? What is a paramedicine?
Community paramedicine, okay. So,
Short version.
layman's terms, it's someone that would have a vehicle much equipped like our Chase vehicles that would respond to, not respond, would have a schedule of visits to home for people. What it's cut down to do and what it's designed to do is to make sure that the non-compliant people become compliant, whether they're non-compliant diabetics or non-compliant hypertension or whatever, to make sure that, you know, some of them can't get to the pharmacy to get their prescriptions or whatever. The second thing that it's aimed to do is cut down on readmissions to hospitals within a certain time frame. So what it would do is, you know, Zach gets discharged from the hospital. The next day I follow up with him to say, hey, did you get your prescriptions filled? Yes, I did. They're right here. How you feeling? Is it helping or whatever? Or if he goes, no, well, obviously, if he doesn't treat what he was in the hospital for, he's going to be a readmission most likely in the next day or two. Our job is then to get them the medication that he needs, take him to get it filled if that's the hang up, or whatever the case might be, or back to the hospital pharmacy to get the prescription. It's to cut down on the readmissions, because if they go back into the hospital at a certain time frame, the hospitals get flagged, they don't get the charge for that, whole kind of thing. And then we're running on a lot of, you know, was in the hospital 2 days ago, diagnosed with this, still has symptoms.
It's
It's a proactive
rather
response.
than a reactive.
And then if also, you know, he's in the hospital for an infection, he's been on amoxicillin for 7 days, we get there and go, how's it working? Still got an abscess. I can call the doctor and be like, hey, 7-day amoxicillin not helping, do you care if I write a prescription for Levaquin? Nope, go ahead. I write him a prescription for Levaquin, try this, I'll be back in 3 days. But it cuts down on a lot of the long distance transports,
Repeats.
that aren't acute in nature, but we can't say no to. And it is too, when we have our regulars that consistently call, if they're not on a schedule, they can go out and make contact with them instead of sending a unit and tying them
So
up.
what's this cost us?
$0. He's gonna come in and talk, and we're gonna get a game plan down, before we present to you anything. I wanted you to be educated on the topic when we showed up, to know what we're talking about, before we get here and you're like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Who's he?
Dr. Cook. I believe it's a $500,000 grant that he was approved for. So. That's all.
Definitely worth
Education
it.
purposes only.
So this can start anytime we and you all get together and to see it. It's not something we have to do this month.
No, this is,
or
like I
next
said,
month, or
there's
this
nothing you have to
year.
vote on, nothing you have to ask on right now. This is information to where at some point we're gonna come back to see if, under the grant process, you would allow us to work with him if he
Okay.
chooses to go with us.
Good deal.
That's all.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. It's like the health department, no, she's not here, she's got a little message here saying that she's not gonna be here, but she said she has confirmed all 3 bids have insurance and equipment to do the job.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So, what's, I guess I'm gonna ask Zach a question here. Zach, with this bid of, for these mowing jobs for the health department, and how it goes through the health department is because of, if somebody's weeds grow up and we get a complaint, they go out and mow, add to their tax rates, whatever.
Yeah, by county ordinance.
Yeah. My question here is, do we have to take the lowest bid?
So this is obviously not it's not a purchase, right? This is a services contract effectively. It's also something that is definitely less than $50,000.
Yeah.
So,
What's that,
in
is
this,
that at need?
in this instance, you know, it falls into your all's current small purchasing ordinance. There's basically no specific regulations as to which service provider you would enter into. I think that the general consensus is that you attempt as best possible to obtain the best price, especially when we're talking about spending county money. I think in this instance, although we're not talking about spending county money, we're talking about
Charges that are passed on.
charges that
To
are put on
taxpayers.
taxpayers,
Property
right?
tax
So
dollars.
it's similar in nature, but I think that you can take into consideration, for instance, the fact that I think we did have a contractor that was doing this. You can take into consideration their, you know, work, whether they did a good job or not, and you can use your individual kind of knowledge and assessments of what is in the best interest of the county at this point.
That's where I was going with this, because
I do not believe, to answer your question, I do not believe that there is a legal requirement like there is in the context of the purchasing requirements to take the lowest bid in a closed bid situation. This is not that.
All right, so with that, all three are equal as far as what she said, they all had insurance and they all had, the equipment to do any type of job that they would be encountered with. So what's anybody's comments? Randy?
I want, let me get that page out here.
There, I got it right here.
Okay. I happen to have a little bit of experience mowing. And I'm gonna say, basically, we wanna make tall grass short. We're not asking for a pristine job. I hope the lowest bidder here realizes this and has experience with this. Once you get into tall grass, you're gonna have to stop, you're gonna have to get out the mower, you're gonna have to pick stuff up. You hope you don't get snake bit and so on and so forth, in the process. But not all tall grass in the county that on somebody's property is from laziness. Sometimes it's medical reasons, sometimes it's somebody's passed away, and I think that a family has already reached their hardship, and I don't wish to add to that. It's just a situation we need to get rectified, and I think we should do it responsibly by getting the cheapest way possible for them to do it. So I'm going to go with the $200 bid.
John?
I think I agree with you, Randy. I really think Zach's done a good job. I really think Zach's done a good job. I haven't
done that before.
Well, you embarrassed me earlier. I think Zach's done a good job. If I had a question, you kind of alluded to it a minute ago, can he take care of, is he gonna be able to bush hog sometimes? And all I know is here it says he has the equipment for the job, so we'll just take it that he has what he needs to do the job. And I'd love to give Zach another chance, but we got a guy here willing to do it for $200. I'll bet money he's back next year wanting more.
I'll be honest with you, I'm gonna say the same thing.
Yeah.
What Mr. Bell has asked for is not unreasonable, and it's perfectly understandable, the price he's given us.
Yeah.
And I hope that Mr. Spicer, I think he's gonna go through a learning curve, but I do believe it's what's best interest for the community.
And I don't know Zach Bell, and I don't know this Casey either one.
Me neither.
And I really don't know Casey Spicer, but it sounds like somebody local. And hopefully it is. I'd rather hire somebody local if we could.
I mean, I
And
hate
the
to
price
pray-
is right.
I hope I'm not preying on somebody's inexperience,
Well,
but at the same point in time, I think it's important to help
I think what you
our
mean,
community as much as we can.
I think what you mean not inexperienced as an inexperienced mower, but maybe he's biting off more than what he can chew.
Yeah, and I hope that's not the case. I hope he's.
Or it's not what he's expecting, I mean,
Yeah.
all I know is it says right here, he has the insurance and equipment for the job.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
He meets the.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm gonna have to agree with both of you, so.
Well, this is getting serious, I tell you
So,
what. Stand back.
I am, I'm like,
I'm gonna take a picture.
if I was gonna
Doug here,
if I was
man.
gonna do anything, I mean, I would stay with the guy that we had before, because we know what he's done in the past.
Mhm.
We know what he's done, and all he did was ask for an increase.
And he must have been done a good job, because I've never heard a complaint.
Yeah.
So,
anyway, I'll entertain a motion to accept Casey Spicer for the 2020, I guess I'm gonna say 2020, the end of this year, or is it for a year from now?
I think it's just
I think it's a year from now. I think
So,
that's from.
does it have to be a date on it? I mean, can't it just be our guy
Zach's
until we
contract
change?
was expiring, so
Yeah,
that's what it means
31st.
for a year then,
Okay.
so it's gonna be for
31st
the
of
next
June, I think.
year of mowing. Cause he'll catch the late summer, fall, and then spring next year.
All right, let's just say year to date,
For the next
2022,
contract cycle.
23 mowing cycle. And, I guess I'll entertain a motion for that.
And I'm gonna ask one more question. Maybe I didn't catch on to it. Is Zach's contract done?
It's over.
It's over. So this is a new contract,
Yeah,
okay.
It expired about 2 days before we had a meeting.
That's what, yeah. Okay, so, you wanna make a motion, Randy, or?
I make a motion to go with Casey Spicer at $200.
I'll second that motion.
Randy's made a motion to accept Casey Spicer for the 22-23 mowing cycle at $200 every time that he's called. And John seconds that, and I'll make that unanimous, so.
So I'll read a case discussing the
Well, Ben,
decision-making as it relates to purchasing services. Under the Public Purchasing Act, government bodies are afforded nearly absolute discretion in purchasing services.
okay. I think that's probably exactly right, so. The other thing here, it says rental agreement, with Austin Satellite Office.
And it's in your packet, and I have the original here.
So is this just a renewal of something we've done over the past?
Yes, and-
Same price, same place?
And I believe we're at the old,
Plus you,
we're at the new, Life Springs building, right, out on Frontage Road. And this is just renewal of our rental space out there.
all right, I'll read the description here. It says office space lease agreement. This is with, between us and the Life Spring, I guess. Scott County Properties. It says the leaser agrees to lease the following description at 3,860 square feet of multi-purpose space at 2277 West Frontage Road, Austin. And it looks like the base rent is net monthly to be paid at $2,006.29, and whoever came up with that number.
That's what I was gonna ask.
It's just a square footage, they just did some kind of, they
Yeah.
got some kind of formula.
We raised that a penny just to.
So anyway, this looks like a renewal made the first day of July 2022. So it looks like it's already probably expired, so. The term of the lease is for 1 year, commencing on July 2022, expiring on midnight the 30th on June the 2023. So I'll entertain a motion to renew this.
I'll make that motion, renew.
John makes a motion to renew the contract with Life Springs for office space in Austin for a satellite office for the health department.
I second that motion.
Randy seconds that, and I'll make that unanimous. So does anything have to be signed or anything?
Right here's the original.
Is that just Mike's son?
I have no idea.
I think probably so. You see it? I think you were.
Lord, I don't know.
John.
Do what?
You see it?
Are we the
It's a
leasee, or-
DocuSign
Yeah, we're the
agreement.
lease.
There, I reckon you can sign it, yeah. Doesn't really say there, does it?
No.
Next.
Back there. All right, moving on to payroll. Everybody had an opportunity to look at the payroll and verify that we don't have any ghost employment on there or everybody's there.
I'm good.
I'll entertain a motion to accept the payroll claims.
Motion to accept the payroll claims.
Second.
Randy seconds it, and I'll make that unanimous, so. While we're doing that, consideration of the minutes for the June 15th regular meeting. Everybody had an opportunity to look at your email and read the minutes.
I did.
I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as read.
I'll make a motion.
Randy, or John makes a motion to accept the minutes for June 15th. Randy?
Yeah, I guess.
Randy seconds that, and I'll make that unanimous. So the next thing on here, and I think this has to do with our attorney, so I'll just let him talk about the distribution of employees and legal distribution to employees. I guess, is that something?
That's your all's question about the premium pay versus the
Oh,
bonus
okay.
versus a pay raise from ARPA funds, but I do have an announcement. Stand back, Zach, are you ready? I'm just gonna step in front of you for a
Go
second.
ahead.
We have received $2,318,525 as of June 16th.
Is that the second roll?
Yes,
Yeah.
So that's the final draw.
that was the final draw. We have received the second half. So we have all of our ARPA monies
In place.
in the bank account except for what little we've expended to date. Just tiny amount for Baker Tilly, tiny amount.
And did you guys,
DLZ,
And a little bit of deal.
I asked Teresa to see if she could
5,000.
find out how much it costs to have AC/DC to play in our courtyard.
We might be able to spend the rest of it very quickly. Yes.
well, you probably get Charlie Daniels.
I think
if
you
he's
guys
still
would be
around.
on
You're right, he passed away.
I think if you use that, you'd be on the highway to hell.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You
okay.
guys,
I may be anyway.
We're
so
showing
I
our
might as well
age,
out
we're
and
showing
use it.
our age really fast, so, yeah.
I don't know who AC/DC is, so.
Uh-huh.
Is that,
Yeah, right.
is that electric plug or something?
Yeah, it's current.
Anyway, as far as the distribution to employees, I know we talked about it, and I think Zach has some additional information. I didn't get the quote that I thought I was gonna get about what the state has a number out there, and I'm $17 an hour sticks in my mind that was the state rate of what they consider as a bonus, and they don't call it a bonus, they call it premium pay. And I had a message out to one of the commissioners in Clark County that I know they did it. Talked to a commissioner in Washington County that haven't done anything. Floyd County hasn't done anything. Harrison County, I think, did, but I haven't been able to talk to him to find out what they did, so.
So I think one of the questions that came up regarding premium pay was who would be eligible in terms of the employees for the premium pay, because I believe that is the way the state defines it, premium pay is for traditionally reserved for what's considered essential employees. So, and I don't know exactly what Clark County did, but I believe that there was something for essential employees at one point, which I will look into. I don't know that that gets at what you guys want in terms of making sure that it's, I don't know who in the county qualifies for the essential pay. I think that in addition to looking at what counties like Clark have done, we probably need to request that, I don't know if Mr. Semler could come here in person, or if we can do just some kind of request to him. But were you able to run the numbers on what this is not a single time distribution. I guess the alternative here, it would be an actual increase on a percentage basis to everyone's base salary.
We talked about that one time, and I felt like we wouldn't do that for the fact that down the road we have to pay for it.
And I
That's
did some
right,
research on
but
that.
we will, I think, in the interim since then, I think two things have happened. So, first, I think that knowing that we could fund it for at least 2 years from ARPA is part of it. But second, that when you look around, now especially with inflation kind of going through the roof, talking about raising base salary going forward, I think makes a little more sense. And worrying about down the road whether or not in 2 to 3 years could that be covered if ARPA cannot cover it. I think that may be something that could be discussed down the road.
And that would also give the council a break for the next couple of years from having to come up with that money.
The difference, yes.
I know they're worried to death about
Yeah.
what's gonna happen next year.
Yeah.
I'm gonna add to what Zach said regarding essential workers / eligible workers. according to information, and Zach and I have talked about this prior to the meeting, workers who are covered by premium pay when it comes to the county will be public health and safety staff. And that's just about it, janitors and sanitation workers. That would about cover who, and the rest of them are farmers, like in farming, food production facilities, nursing home staffs, hospitals, etc. So a lot of, and then interim rule also opens it up a little bit to local or tribal, depending on, kind of I think how the state perceives eligible people. But one thing that would happen if, I think the first question I want to ask is, do you want this to go to every county employee? That's my first question. Or do you want to target certain people or groups or positions, and realizing that we are post the shutdown and the major emergency? Because again, what date and who are you going to include in this? Because I had conversation with Addie Rooker at Wagner, Irwin, and Shealy, and she said, your resolution, if you decide to adopt a pay policy for this, needs to be very specific on who qualifies, what dates you're considering to make you qualified for this, and how you want to do this. Because if you want to roll back to 2020 and piggyback on the fact that it's pandemic shutdown related, we're going to be looking at people that aren't even here anymore. That's going to get very cumbersome, and you want to tie every loose end you can down about this. So, and telework performed, and a lot of people went remote and worked hours from home. Premium pay on those hours, telework performed from a residence is not subject for premium pay. Those are excluded.
So I think to get to what your all's original intent was, you could do something like a graduated pay increase, doing a percentage of 2 to 4% in the first year. You could fund that from ARPA. You could do another 2 to 4, or a 2 and then a 4, or however you wanted to do it for the next year, or not increase it the next year, depending on what it looks like. But again, fund it from ARPA. What's the last year that we can actually expend?
26.
But the plan has to be in place by 24.
But the plan must be in place by 24, so you have to know in 24.
And I don't, on the employee side, I don't think they got a raise at all this year.
No, they did.
I think they did in 21, but they didn't in 20, is that correct?
I think you're correct.
And,
We didn't charge them on their insurance though.
And then part of that was, yes, we
We
had
ate the
a flat
insurance.
line. Yeah.
We ate the insurance
Yes.
and didn't give them a raise.
and I think I'm right on this one too. I think our county's probably paying less than most counties around our employees.
County-wise, we don't stack up terribly, but we can't compete with municipalities, which is our closest neighbors for employment. When Addie explained to me that some counties are now looking at, where a lot of counties have not looked at their ARPA funds, they're looking at it now as something to help retain their workforce. And they're asking them, which I don't think we're gonna get to this point, but they're doing compensation studies for a lot of their clients right now, because they're finding out that they're needing to raise the county wages, not just due to inflation, just to retain people. There's a lot of counties sitting with vacant positions right now because they just can't get the workforce in there to take care of these jobs.
So I think that's the risk that you run into really with this. If you go too long, especially in an inflation period, I'm not saying, again, I don't want to get involved in what your all's actual decision is, but I think you would be looking at a number of people who have years of experience with the county. If someone leaves that position, being competitive in terms of getting somebody else, especially for highly specialized positions, into those jobs would become more and more difficult as time progresses.
And I know sustainability is one thing, because we don't wanna cut back on our services that we have right now. We always think we improve as we go down the road, and we're hoping that as we go down the road, that technology changes in, what we're required to do. It's just like my office right now. In 23, there'll be no more mortgage deductions. The mortgage deduction that kept us, the property tax deduction that kept us the busy at the counter will no longer be available to, they're gonna put the 3,000 on your homestead deduction. So that's great, because they're not, your homesteaders aren't gonna lose that mortgage if they had one. But we're not gonna have the one that's the revolving door that everybody refinances every 2 or 3 years and comes in and has to refile a paper. When we file a deduction, it's gonna stay there until that person moves most of the time now. We're not gonna have this, so that's gonna create a little bit of wiggle room for me to get my people busy at other tasks. So again, by attrition, maybe we can fix a few budget things, over the course of the next two, but again, it's a planning thing. If you guys plan to do, let's just throw this number out, a 2%. Most of the time, a 50-cent raise to 75-cent raise to occasionally we may have gotten $1 an hour raise. That's just rare. But if we did a 2% raise and then we piggybacked another 2% raise on top of that, we would kind of phase in at the end of 2 years. We've raised our wages 4%. You know, and then if a couple of years
some
it
of
needs,
the heat off of council again,
yes.
in terms of,
I think that's our best move. I mean, and I know, there's gonna be, a lot of people's gonna be upset with me for saying that, you know, because, you know, they want the instant gratification of having a $2,000 or something check given to them. But I think it's hard to determine, you know, somebody in a truck, 3 people in a truck who has to sit next to each other during COVID, opposed to somebody who was sitting in their office 6 feet away. You're not going to, you know, equally, they all deserve it. But there's going to be some animosity there, no matter how you look at it. And, you know, we now at the county, and I'm just using every employee we have is important. A happy employee makes for a better service provided to the citizens of Scott County. Also, looking at it from the highway department end, they catch a lot of guff, but hey, these guys all have to have a CDL license. And I'm here to tell you, we're at the bottom of that pay scale for what a CDL driver can make. So, and a CDL driver just has to sit in the truck. They don't have to get out and unload their trucks most of the time.
And to play up your fairness point, everybody's wages are set according to their classification and what the job requires. If you give a 50-cent raise across the board, there's arguments on both sides of the fence about what type of raise you give. But a 50-cent raise is not as impactful to somebody who's making $20 an hour as it is somebody making $15 an hour. If you give a percentage raise, it's gonna be commensurate with what they're already getting paid already.
Absolutely.
So it's gonna increase according to what their job required. So it's gonna be more equitable for the positions, not per person, but for the positions. And that's what we're looking at is keeping people in these positions and
Exactly.
making them feel good, because the term essential, I get what they mean, but that's not to be mistaken for valuable.
Exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
everybody's valuable, and I think.
If they wasn't,
and
we wouldn't have them.
Tendency in government to be herd mentality. Oh, we gotta treat everybody exactly alike. Well, we're not all alike, and we're not all pulling the same weight in some situations, and so therefore your part-time people are gonna get a percentage raise just like your full-time people.
That's what, you know, during COVID, when they were talking about, you know, essential and non-essential people, well, I still don't like that terminology, because if you're non-essential, then why are you employed? I mean, if we don't need you, then you're essential. If you're non-essential, then we don't need you. So I didn't like that terminology, but actually, when we first talked, and this has been probably 2 years ago when we talked about, or maybe a year and a half or so, but I brought up the raise, and got shot down pretty quick by the council, because they're like, we can't afford that, and actually everybody was saying, we can't do that for the fact of what you're gonna do in the third year, because you're gonna have to pay for it. You know, are you dreaming that you're gonna have the revenue to pay for it in 3 years? So, I mean, I'm for something here, but, you know, I'd have to see the numbers and know what the number is.
And that's kind of what I needed, the guidance.
That's what we wanna
Yeah.
do, is put some numbers in front of you guys, hopefully as quick as possible. I mean, I don't know if it'd be at the next meeting. I think we got a couple
I
weeks.
can work on that between, yeah, I've got a deadline August the 1st with my stuff, but I can work on this in the.
But that's why we try and do it on a step-by-step year basis, not saying, and again, I would probably caution against maybe like an agreement right now that says we do 2 and 4 or 2 and 2, right? You do 2.
I'm not ready to do it tonight anyway.
Continue it.
You'd have to see.
And if you wanted to do it again, you'd have another opportunity
To renew
next
that.
year to do it again.
When does the council meet to do the budget?
They're, August the 9th, I think, is the next meeting date, and I think that's their all day.
I think we should wait to see what they're gonna do. See if they can afford a pay raise at all.
Well, they're not
Well,
gonna,
well, if they don't, they don't, but then that'll make it,
but they're not gonna pay for this raise anyway.
I can
no,
do
I'm
some
talking about us
calculations.
not doing anything, not giving a raise at all, and see if the council can afford to give a raise.
I'll calculate it.
And if they, which I don't think they will,
No, they
because they didn't last year, it'll give us a better direction on whether we wanna work with them on that, or a bonus, or go the direction we're looking at tonight.
Tammy's gonna calculate for us, so we can see what the
Yeah.
numbers are.
I'll just get you a good
Can we
estimate.
give her some type of idea what percentage
To
we would
use.
like to see her calculate?
Addie said that
Yeah.
a lot of the counties she deals with, they're looking at permanent wage increases, 4 to 6%. Now that's, if I do a 2%, I'm just throwing this out.
It's easy math.
It's easy math. You can double it, half it, whatever. I mean, it's easy if I do a 2%.
So if she
I
doesn't,
do
If you want to do 4,
2%,
it's just
we-
twice
I
that.
got you.
Yeah.
So what's,
Well, me personally, I mean, I wanna do one thing or the other, but I don't wanna make a decision until the council.
No
no,
decision,
we're not
just
gonna make
numbers.
a
you're not making
Yeah.
a decision.
Yeah, I get that, but I mean, I wanna wait till after they see what they're gonna do. If they can afford a pay raise, I'm not sure we shouldn't let them.
Well, I can tell you,
I don't think they will.
so you're saying,
if they
let's
can
vote
afford
by
it.
the council to see if
What
they
they're gonna
can
do.
afford a pay raise without using ARPA funds.
And then we may wanna help them out on it, we may wanna do a bonus, whatever. But we're running on the assumption that we're going to do a pay raise because they can't.
wow.
And in that case, I would probably be in favor of this.
Well, I think the suggestion is more in the line of specifically, not that they can or can't, but more in terms of where does the money come from? This is just another avenue to use ARPA monies.
Yeah.
So, and
And just to let you guys know, council will probably be saying, if we give everybody such and such raise, what would that cost us?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna be calculating something anyway.
I'd calculate the 2%, and if we decide to go more, we know it's 2 times that, or,
Mhm.
3 times that.
I would like to actually see 4%.
well,
Just because the cost of living,
Well, when she
normally across the board is
calculates,
3%.
I would calculate it at 2.
And then if
We'll
it's
know
twice
what
that, it's a 4.
4 and 6 are.
Because Addie said that Social Security, that numbers they're getting back from them right now, they're for sure 5.6% inflation on wages.
Yeah,
And
maybe
they
we
said
could-
they're looking at double digits in some cases.
We might be able to split something with the council.
all right, we're gonna table that till Tammy brings us some numbers, so. Additional legal counsel agreement with Ice Miller.
So everybody should have a copy of the proposed agreement, and just to kind of explain why I think that this is necessary. And again, it's on an as-needed basis. It's not, they're not quoting us a specific amount, right? They're just agreeing as needed to assist in specific representations regarding the use of funds received from the American Rescue Plan Act. The reason I think that this is pretty critical at this stage is, just like tonight, when we're talking about this wage increase, I think when we're, especially, not just that, but when we're talking about the bridge projects and any other projects that may or may not come in front of you guys, I think it's really important that you have some attorneys who can help you navigate what is going to be a very complicated set of rules. And if we look back at what happened in the CARES Act distributions, the rules seem to be a little bit fluid at times. So they were changing as people received more information about where the money needed to be spent. So I think Ice Miller, first off, has been specifically the attorney who's on there has been a point of contact with Ice Miller for the county for a number of years, but this would be specific to ARPA. To review things as questions come in about federal procurement laws and use of money from ARPA as not necessarily substitute, but when you're using that money to, fix a bridge, build a bridge, any project that's going to be more than $250,000. Truthfully, I am not going to be personally equipped to handle all of that by myself, nor am I dealing with these issues on a regular basis. And I think that it's going to benefit you guys in the long run in trying to determine. They're going to have model, not necessarily contracts, but model resolutions and orders for appropriating money or entering into agreements, and they're going to understand how to review. I think you've entered into, was it 2 contracts last meeting with some firms that are going to start a public bidding process for those bridges. They would be able to review what comes back from CivilCon and make sure that it meets all the legal requirements under federal law for use of these funds, so that 6 to 8 years down the road, when the money is allocated and spent, there's not a question about the validity of agreements or anything in terms of fairness to the bidders or use of the money by you guys. So that's kind of my take on it. And in some respects, this is coming from me. It's my request.
It's akin to using Highlander and Gray for additional human resource support, and it's just the same thing with these ARPA funds. I'm not gonna be in this position after December 31st, so
It's good to have some consistency.
It is, and that's part of having Baker Tilly for that financial advisor. I mean, as Jason says, he said, I won't give legal advice if the lawyers won't give financial advice, and that's kind of how he lines it up, so.
Well, the issue is that for people to understand is that if we think that we're in the right about how we spend ARPA money and we're not in the right, then we're gonna have to shell out the money to pay for that, because if they deem down the road that we spent it on a project or for an item that they don't deem correct, we're on the block for the money. So I'd rather be safe up front. Ice Miller is a big attorney firm that the Association of Commissioners use, and they're going to be talking with every county commissioner, or most county commissioners in the state. So
they've used them in bonding projects, I think, in prior years.
We've used them for TIF plan amendments.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that was it.
I'm just wanting, I don't totally figure this out. Is this, we're going to hire ice miller for ARPA or for any other thing else or what?
It's specific.
I see all the fees. How often will we be using these people?
Only as
As
needed.
needed.
Okay.
If Zach's got a question, or we have a question about spending, he would inquire to them if he doesn't have the answer, and they would give him advice or a perspective that they have.
And the next question, who's doing that now?
We're trying the best we can to navigate through these waters, because we're talking about federal funds. And
Okay.
that's a lot different than stuff that just is state only or locally garnered funds.
Is that true that, one of the reasons we have Baker Tilly involved in this is that although they're not attorneys, they know the processes, and when it gets to a fine line of a process,
Is it
they're not
legal or
gonna
not?
make that decision. They're gonna come back and go, we don't know. So at that point, we need to go to an attorney that says, this is what we do know.
And so that, I think that's where I want to know is, so we won't be dealing with them much. We'll be
Unless
dealing with
we
Baker
need
Tilly
to deal with
mostly.
them. Yes.
But if we get into that point where we don't know, you
They
can
will
contact
clarify.
somebody from there.
Yes.
Yes, they
Okay.
are on a
All right.
as needed.
So we may not even use it.
We may not.
May.
I would say May, I would think there will come a point in time where we will be using ice miller, but it will not be, it's not gonna be like we're making a call a week.
Okay. And now the funds we're asking for here, will be paid for from the county or
The
ARPA? Does this, if we use these people, we'll use ARPA money?
That's right.
And that's correct.
Just like we did Baker Tilly.
Yes.
Okay, that's, well, I just want to be sure here. So we don't need to go to council for this, or we do go to ARPA
No.
money?
Well, it's, you guys, you will wanna update council, I think, and tell them part of their professional services appropriation could include ice miller. I think we need to be transparent with them,
Yeah, well, they,
okay?
everything else I do, we vote on it and they agree to it or not. And so I assume we would here.
They've
They
appropriated
decide whether to
money,
appropriate, so they have appropriated some money for
professional service.
professional services. This falls in that line item. But I think just in terms of letting them know that there's this additional service.
Okay.
That you, besides Baker Tilly, that you could be possibly using ice
Okay.
miller out of the professional services appropriation.
Okay.
And then if you need more and you run out, then you'll have to go ask them for an additional appropriation.
Okay.
How's that?
All right.
I'll make sure that council knows at the next meeting, if you guys so move, that you've retained ice miller for, advice for the ARPA funds as well.
Okay.
All right,
Yeah.
Randy, you got any questions?
No, we need to make a motion.
Yeah, we need to have a motion. So I'll entertain a motion to employ, ice miller on an at-need basis and, only for interpreting, ARPA funds, I guess, questioning, so,
Legal uses.
yeah.
So I'll make a motion to retain ice miller for ARPA fund.
Randy makes a motion to accept Ice Miller as an additional legal counsel. John?
Yeah, I'll second that.
John seconds that, and I'll make it unanimous, so hopefully we don't have to use them.
I'm afraid Zach would get on YouTube and try to give us answers to that.
All right, now it's to the attorney's comments.
So actually, the only thing I really have is, Tammy, I sent you a copy of what I hope is, well, no, I don't hope, it is my final draft version of the updated purchasing ordinance. If we could do the, notices for the public hearing on the, I guess, we don't have time for the next
I'm
meeting.
gonna ask a question. If it's an administrative.
It is an administrative, I
ordinance,
don't know that we need a
I
public
don't
hearing.
know that that was requiring
Yeah, this was
anything.
that was
I think it's
required. But we still have, some noticing requirements, I believe, if we're adopting an ordinance.
Maybe? Not so sure. If it's an administrative ordinance, I'm not so sure that we have to put anything in the paper. Don't know. I know the handbook amendments are 30 days and posted internally. I'm not for sure about administrative ordinances of the county. Cause you're just basically reciting statute and references to that, and then just what we have under their authority, under small purchases. I don't think, if there's not a fee or a penalty or a traffic control, I don't think we have to advertise that.
Is there any reason why we shouldn't?
Money, you have to pay the paper to put
But
it
how
in.
much are we talking?
I don't know, it depends on how wordy it is, cause it would have to be, the whole ordinance would
pretty
have to be
wordy.
it's pages.
It's very- an attorney
It was
wrote
drafted
it.
by an
It's
attorney,
very
it's really wordy.
And boring.
Do I need to go print that off for everybody's act? Do you want me to?
Yes, please, it's,
Well, before you go, Tammy, I got a question about something else, and I thought he put it on the agenda, but I see now that, I asked Josh to put on the agenda about the concrete
Oh,
sidewalk
and the
that we
sidewalk.
talked about, and he was telling me that we didn't appropriate the money. Well, it was included in the $400-some thousand.
It wasn't, it was,
It should have been, cause when
that was,
that, you were out, Teresa was here, and we were talking about that, and Teresa goes, well, I'll just group it in as the courthouse project, and the sidewalks would be included in that.
so you think it was part of that appropriation?
Yes,
We
I
tried
know,
to make it.
I know it was, cause that's
I'll ask her
that's
about
what
it.
Teresa, well, the
That's
point of
fine.
it is, if we don't do it now, we're gonna be into another 2 weeks waiting to tell somebody they have a bid. Because,
Okay, I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna defer to Zach on, taking quotes for services paid for by federal monies. Even if it's under 240,000 or whatever, if it's a service contract, do we have anything to go through for federal funds?
is this, what are we talking about?
Construction of
sidewalk
the
that we were
sidewalk.
gonna put around the courthouse, and we were gonna put it out separately, and Teresa said, why don't we just group it in? I'm getting ready to advertise for the $450,000 that she advertised, and it's grouped in with all that other stuff.
So my only concern there is that specifically, I thought that the courthouse appropriation was part of, I don't want to say this incorrectly, but some kind of, it was an emergency declaration. I don't know that the sidewalks are part of that
Sorry.
package, or do we need to do an additional?
I think I could go back and have her pull what was budgeted and appropriated and what line item was created, because that
We'll
will,
start out at $200,000
for the
roof,
replacement.
for the replacement of the roof,
And then we added the
and
emergency
then we
on top.
put $250 on top of that
Okay.
for, we didn't know what the outcome was gonna be,
So that was 450, and I think that's what she had.
and that's what she averaged.
450.
But when we were talking about the sidewalks and any other thing we were talking about, she said, why don't we just group it in with and make it a project? Cause we didn't think at the time we were gonna, and we still don't, I don't think, we're not gonna spend $400,000 on the roof project.
But we're just talking, well, and then the roof. Okay, but we're still talking about whether or not we need to advertise for an additional appropriation right now, is that right, or whatever?
What he's questioning was what was approved for, by council, roof only or roof with sidewalks?
It was supposed to be
Yeah,
a
we
roof.
were supposed to,
Don't know specifically what council approved in terms of.
They approved the $450 for the courthouse project.
yeah.
And that's what I said, you weren't here because you were out, Teresa was sitting in, and she goes, why don't we just do this? And that's what we did.
And then I wonder if by emergency declaration and whatnot, we wouldn't have kind of overstepped that, because then we had the appropriation, but maybe not.
Well,
Because the plan
So-
really wasn't submitted to council in writing for use of ARPA funds, is what it was, it was just communicated. Like, this much for roof replacement, this much, because they already knew the roof replacement numbers, because they had been rainy day.
is there a way to look at council's minutes? and
Yes,
see
I
if-
I don't
I can pull
remember
those.
voting to do that.
Yeah, we did.
I remember voting
We didn't
remember
pick-
talking about it, but I
We didn't
never
pick
voted
the
for it.
contractor. And the reason we didn't pick the contractor, because we were waiting for council to approve the money. So they sent the money to, or they sent the message to council saying, here's what we're doing, and we're gonna appropriate they were gonna appropriate the money, which they did, but we didn't pick the contractor.
I don't remember voting on it. I ain't saying I didn't. I did no remembrance of voting to do
Yeah.
that. I remember talking about it.
We increased the amount,
Yeah.
It was $65,000.
yeah, in order to be able to do the sidewalk project.
Well, we can, regardless either way, we can advertise and get it for the council to make that appropriation just for sidewalks.
Well, if they've already done it, why would we have to do it again?
That's what I'm gonna check to see if
That's a
that
month.
sidewalk was part of their motion.
Because that's a month away again.
Okay. I'm not for sure that the sidewalk was part of their motion.
You guys
I
bored
don't know,
yet?
I have to find it. Let's see. Maybe Mary is not gonna get it. March, April, it was May, wasn't it?
I believe it was May. I looked it up, I looked our minutes up
Special
and had the price of the two people that,
Expenditures up to the bond funds for all expenses relating to court for the roofing. Did you shut that off?
Commissioners and councilmen joint session on April.
Aaron, are you happy the fair's over?
Jones moved to approve $450,000 additional appropriation.
She's going this way.
Yeah,
you're
that's
going
what
this
I
way.
heard. Yeah.
Expenses related to roof failure emergency on the original portion.
I know that.
The
Physically, I'm glad
courthouse.
it's over, I think so.
That was not,
But
in
it
that,
didn't get done.
there was not a motion.
But 450,000.
So they still doing that on the 19th and 20th?
200,000 was originally
Good
Oh,
deal.
okay,
used for.
we can,
That's gonna be in the evening, isn't it?
Right.
what can happen is council can open, or approve a sidewalk and transfer 50,000 to that line. And we don't have to
But
advertise.
it was more than that. I think their bids were 65.
Well, 450, what was moved here and approved was Jones
Did
moved
we do
to
it?
approve, not you, Jones, but Raymond. Additional appropriation from the rescue plan, ARPA, for expenses related to the roof failure emergency on the original portion of the courthouse. And Harden seconded and motion carried unanimously, and it was for 450,000. So that 450 was totally appropriated to the roof only.
But then it was presented wrong because
Okay.
we left this meeting knowing that sidewalk was involved in that.
That they can create a line item and move the money, 60,000 or 70, whatever it takes for
Well, you said-
sidewalks, to a new line. And
But we're
we don't
talking,
have to re-advertise.
I get that, but we're talking about August 9th. At their next meeting,
So, what,
I see what you're saying.
let me cut through.
Because I keep asking.
So what Mike's saying, and I agree, is every week that we put off the sidewalk costs us more money. Because everything is climbing substantially in the building industry.
Well,
So,
Josh asked me about the sidewalks and who was accepted for them, so I went back and pulled the minutes.
Nobody was.
And you guys tabled it until you found out what the roof was gonna cost you bottom
Right.
line. And that was the last action on
Did
the
we do-
sidewalk.
Did we do like an invitation for quotes on the sidewalks?
He pulled,
Yes.
he did, but not, there wasn't anything advertised in the paper, was it?
He
yeah, he was supposed to.
He never, he does not advertise in the paper, I do.
I was under the impression he advertised or he called multiple people because they were like the
But
referral
that's under
bids.
small
in-
purchases, not small purchases, but.
I don't think it
yeah,
is under small purchases. If it's more than $50,000.
It was 65.
It would be 150. It's 150 on that. It would be, that's the.
50 to 150 is.
Is the
quotes.
3 quotes, right, correct.
That's what he
Did they
had.
get 3
Yeah,
quotes?
that's what
he had.
We did.
Okay, all right,
That's what he had was
That's under the-
three quotes.
So is that good for federal stuff?
yes. Well, it's under $250,000.
But my question was that, because I keep calling Josh going, when, what we doing with the concrete sidewalks? And he goes, I don't know. And then finally I said, what are we going, what's going on? And then he said, well, they never appropriated the money. I go, yes, they did. It was in the 450.
And I bet based on these minutes, that's what we had to go by. So it didn't look like it was appropriated.
They are.
But that's,
So at this point, what can we do to expedite it? Anything?
council, I mean, again, we're talking about they meet the 90, but they could create a line item in the ARPA funds and move the money that you need for the sidewalks from the 450 down,
I guess my question
do a
here,
transfer, because it's all the same kind of thing.
I guess my question here, and I know you're not a mind reader, but will they do that?
I see what you're saying.
That's why it was grouped in the, that's why it was
But
grouped
they
in
would have
the
had to
money.
have approved it one way or the other. I mean, it can't be,
I get
you
that,
can't
but
declare an
that's,
emergency and put in sidewalks, does that make sense?
but
But we had
again,
already talked to them, and they had already agreed to it.
Okay,
And now
then if
we-
that's the case, then they should have no problem with creating a line item and transferring.
Agreeing to it the second time?
But they, unless they approved it in a meeting, it's not agreed to. They might tell you that, but until it's official action,
I
there's no
get
way
that,
to back it
but
up.
I guess I left that meeting, our meeting, under the impression that it was going to them to be approved.
And they've never
So-
turned it up or down either one, so you're still sitting at square
Well,
zero.
Well, it doesn't sound like it was ever presented to them.
So, it doesn't appear at this point that it was. I could go back through to see what they discussed, I could go back.
I'm not interested in that, I'm just,
I just wanted it
wanting to
done,
see
but
what we gotta do to move forward and
To move
get our sidewalk.
Well, you have not accepted a vendor, is that correct?
no,
So you need
that's
the
what we
quotes.
were waiting for. We were waiting for it to get approved by the appropriation to get approved by the council. I found out that the 450 was approved.
Well, I do believe Josh was working on reaching back out to everybody to get them to confirm the pricing, because things go up, like you said, every little bit, and it's been several weeks.
Yeah.
So I think he was reaching back out, so you might wanna talk to him, because I do believe he was working on that, cause he
Oh, I
conveyed to me
talked
that
to
he
him
said
this-
he got at least one person responded and said, my number's the same.
I did talk to him, that's why I thought he was supposed to be on the agenda for this thing, but I just noticed that's why I brought up that he wasn't, so.
He wasn't, okay.
Because I'm asking him when we're gonna start, and, you know, now we find out what we thought we appropriated wasn't appropriated, so.
All right, let me get that printed off with a purchase order.
John, you got anything, let's move along here, John, you got anything extra that's not on the agenda?
Probably do, but I can't think of anything right now.
Randy, you got anything that's not on the agenda that you wanna talk about?
No.
All right, I do. First of all, well, Tammy's not in here, so I can't answer that question. Well, that question is to Tammy too, who can answer that. Every one of these are Tammy questions, so guess we'll just sit here a minute.
Well, I'll just throw this out. I'd still like to appropriate some money. We get some paving done out of the ARPA. And I don't know, probably won't go anywhere, but I would like to do that.
Is there, you got a dollar amount or?
Well, I threw out that 200,000 per district a while back, but that doesn't have to be how much number I picked up. But I got some roads I'd like to get done. I get called about them.
What roads are you?
Mostly Boatman, but Boatman, Ray, Terrell, Taylor Mill. Boatman itself, you're talking about a 4-mile strip. I don't think we can get all that done, but we could get the worst parts done.
I will tell you, I reached out to Drew Markle, he's a commissioner in Jackson County. Talking with Kevin told me that they have chip and seal equipment up there that's almost brand new. And they haven't used it in about 4 years because they don't have the people to run it. So I've actually reached out to Drew and see if there's a possibility that we can do something, borrow it, use it, do some chip sealing on our own, but it's the whole shooting match. It's the,
Can we purchase it?
Well, and that's the other thing, if they're not gonna use it, we may be able to purchase it, so.
Chip and seal is gonna become something very important to Scott County.
Well, we can
Because
chip,
we cannot afford to
Yeah.
keep paving our roads.
well, we can chip and seal a mile road for $10,000 compared to $40,000 paving it. So it almost makes no sense sometimes. And actually 31, as we were walking on it today, that's chip and seal.
It is.
So it has a good base to it. I mean, some of the roads that we know that are going to break up because they don't have a great base or whatever, might be an ideal situation to chip and seal them.
Well, and then, and I'm gonna throw an example out, because
Thank you,
I
ma'am.
went to Harrison County and watched this in action. So you have certain roads, and I'm gonna, again, one of these things that I make everybody mad when I say this, that we've only got 3/8 of thickness of blacktop that's gonna peel off because there was nothing put underneath it, okay? In those situations, you cannot just chip and seal over top of it because you've only bonded to the layer that is peeling off of it. But with this equipment, you can go through and you can chew the road up,
Sorry.
inject it with Portland cement base material, and rebuild the road with the materials that you already have on there. And matter of fact, did you guys go to the one out there in Harrison County?
I've been out there, but I didn't go to that.
So the highway, the highway, the state highway going through Harrison County to the boat, the state gave that to Harrison County. Now, why Harrison County would ever agree to take it, I'm not sure, other than Harrison County has all kinds of money. But that is how Harrison County fixed that whole road.
You talking about where it caved into the river?
Yeah, right, it runs right along the river, down through there, that's the road, and that's how they fixed it. And it does a pretty good job, but I mean, in Scott County, we're gonna have to move towards that at one point in time, because we simply cannot, we've only been funding our roads through grants, and that's gonna end eventually. And some point in time, we're going to have to buy this equipment to do that, and it's gonna make the roads like you're talking more affordable for us to take care of
I
and
agree.
do that.
And there's nothing wrong with a chip and seal road.
Absolutely not.
The first day there is, but.
Well, and that too goes back to when we was all growing up and they did the chip and seal or the resurfaced road, they didn't use washed rock. So you had all this dust and you had loose rock coming up off of it. And the proper use of that is to use washed rock. And Scott County Stone will do that at a fee. But that's the whole thing behind it. You gotta wash the rock so it bonds to the emulsions and doesn't have all that dust.
So Zach, is this a proposal?
Well, anyway, I wanna pave some roads.
Zach, is this a proposal that you want us to look at and we can pass this at our next meeting?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Tammy, I got a couple of questions.
Okay.
Back, I'm gonna say 2
I
years,
do too.
I'm gonna say back 2 years ago or so, and I believe it was the assessor came in front of the board and asked for used $55,000 of her money to have new pictures taken for the GIS map.
I asked for, coronavirus money, I believe.
No, what I'm asking is, she came and asked she said, I have money in my budget to pay for new photos for the GIS. I'm told that she has those, but she will not allow other people that have the GIS to use those photos. Is there a reasoning, to your knowledge, of why she's hoarding updated new pictures of the Scott County mapping system for other people to use on the GIS?
My understanding is Eric Lowry, WTH, was down here a few weeks ago, and the public site has the brand new pictures. The pictography is new.
No, I got it on my phone, it
And
does
it's
not.
not? It's not the
No.
new layer?
And I was told, and I'm not gonna tell on a certain person, but that company is the one that contacted me and said they don't have access to those
And
pictures.
see, and I thought the public site, and what I understood from him, it was updated and the public had to view too.
Nope,
Okay, that would be something you would probably have to address with her, because if there's control over certain layers,
I get that.
yes, and so, but my understanding was that, I'll go in there and look at my version and then the public version, I'll take a look at that, okay?
Okay, well, and I go back to that, cause I asked
So the
911,
pictometry,
I asked 911 too, and they don't have it. So,
oh, okay.
and Marty doesn't have it.
Okay,
So if we paid $55,000 for new pictures, then I think it ought to be shared with everybody that needs it. So, I'm just saying, that's
Okay.
one thing.
I'll check into that.
The Verizon, I know we signed a contract the last meeting. Is there a contact with them or anything to find out what their timeline of putting the tower up?
Preston Patton is their, I think it's an acquisition person. I can forward his email to everybody.
Yeah, I'd like to talk to him, because for some reason, Verizon has the worst service in Scott County right now. So, what else was there? I think that's all I'm gonna go with that, but we'll want to say one thing, so everybody knows that's not here, or hadn't been in the courtroom or courthouse. The roof project's moving along. Randy probably could tell you more about it than I could, but if you walked in the other hallway in the old part down here, there is bracing in there. I'm sure nobody's gonna crawl in the crawl space to see that there's bracing in the crawl space, but there's bracing in the crawl space. Marty did, cause she took a picture of it. In the courtroom, there's bracing on the truss that has broken, so, Randy told me before the meeting here that royalty will be here on Monday to start taking the roof off of the old part of the courthouse down to the original decking. So, and they told us before that would take about a week to do, didn't they?
Yes.
Up to 7 days, depending on weather and everything else, but I think it'll go faster than that, but.
And I'm just gonna reiterate back, what we already know, just to make sure that everybody's on the same page, that how this looks is Thomas now is kissed up against the bottom of that beam to secure it so that royalty can get on top and take the extra weight off the roof. Then, Thomas will raise, once that is done, Thomas will come back in, put the, LVL in
That's on a weekend.
on a weekend while there's nobody here. And I also, this conversation is mostly for anybody who works at the courthouse, so they can be up to date, because a lot of rumors are flying around. So at that point, then we're going to have to probably look at taking bids again, because raising that beam up with that LVL is not going to jack the roof up to where it needs to be. There's also a lot of board damage from this that is going to have to be fixed, not to the degree of what we're doing now, but there's a lot of trusses up there that is pulled apart and gapped. You know, we've got rafters that are actually, if you go up there and look, they're almost dangling, and the original decking is holding that up instead of it holding the decking up. You can go up there and look, and you can see nails sticking out this far between the decking and the rafters. So that will have to be done before Royalty Roofing can get up there and put the new roof down. Because then, when we start doing that, then that roof's gonna start moving.
Yeah.
So it's all in different phases, and it's unfortunately not a quick process, but the end result is, we have no choice. We simply have no choice but to fix this roof.
I'm guessing our structural engineer, Anthony, he's involved in this, every bit of thing what we're doing.
He is.
I know one time he said he'd be down here for all of it.
He wants to be here at the point, because he's been in contact with Jason, and they have sent pictures back and forth, and they're talking in close communication with that. But Anthony is going to be here for the lifting of the beam to put the LVL in. That, you know.
Well, he told us before that he wants to be here when the beams, when they jack the beam up and install the LVL. And he wanted to be here to see what's moving and what's going on. And he also told us in the very beginning that once that all gets back up and fixed, then he's gonna reevaluate what moved, what didn't move, and what still needs to be done. And he told us in the beginning, there needs to be more structural bracing and some other stuff. So we knew that this wasn't the end of it. I mean, now granted, if it would bring it back up to the 10 inches back up and they can put the roof on, he said they can put the roof on, they can brace everything after the roof's on. That's a down the road thing.
Right, but the likelihood of that happening right now is not.
Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to bring it up that, you know, we're talking about the roof project. You know, my timetable, I guess I'm not in the contracting business, but my timetable with me saying I'd like to see 6 weeks is, you know, that's 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, and unfortunately, a lot of that is wrapped up in government.
Oh, it was, because we
bureaucracy.
had to wait 7 or 8 days to get that back. So.
Right, you know, had this been somebody's roof on somebody's house, it would have been done over with.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, Zach, you got anything?
I have nothing else.
Tammy, you got anything? Randy, you got anything?
I'm good.
John, you got anything?
Nope.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
John made that, and I just want to say, for the record, John and Randy agreed tonight, so.
It won't happen again.
Probably won't happen again.
If you wait around, you'll get a picture, I'll have a group hug here.
Randy seconds that, and I'll make that unanimous, so. Kill that out.
Yeah, kill that owl, in case I say something I wish I hadn't.
Kill that out.